estate situation and make you an as-is cash offer. KLAMEN Group.com.
So we finally got the parts for the time machine.
Classic Kicks Country is streaming now. Hear all your new country favorites from the 90s. Streaming as it happened in the 90s. Classic Kicks. Download the Classic Kicks app from the App Store. Online at ClassicKicks.com. Or enable the Classic Kicks skill on Alexa. 90s new country streaming now.
Is the path to business prosperity to find your best clients?
Bongino.
In other words, people with big voices like News Talk STL, and then to kick them off the platform and attack them for barely stating an opinion?
Weekdays at 11.
Do you think that's an effective business model?
On News Talk STL.
Driver in a traffic jam, staring at the faces in a rearview mirror, looking at the promise of the promised land. One kid dreams of fame and fortune. One kid helps pay the rent. One could end up going to prison. One just might be president.
Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer.
Only in America.
Randy Tobler.
Dreaming in red, white, and blue.
On News Talk STL.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a big edition of the Tobler Show today. Boy, there is so much going on, Jerome. We're going to need another 2 or 3 hours. You think we can bump Eric and Bob aside and, Tony and, move everyone down the line, and then into Mike Ferguson's show on Monday morning? He won't mind, will he? I guess he will. They all have things to say, too. Hey, we've got a lot to talk about today. And speaking of Eric, Eric's going to be with us because there's some, I believe, troubling clouds on the economic horizon. We'll be talking about that. I'm talking about a dip in consumer confidence at the same time as the CPI is up, at the same time as some alarming labor statistics come out. Eric will be with us at the 8:10 hour. I'm sorry, it's the 7:25 hour, 7:25 with Eric Robert to do a little bit of some in the historical context. Have we ever seen circumstances like this? We'll ask the question. Virginia Cruda with us. Some interesting cultural information coming out. Daily Wire reporting through some surveys that, loneliness is just zooming up, just through the roof. Despair, depression, anxiety. What's it all about? And what's the cause? What's the cure? We'll try to delve into that at 7:45. And, of course, Zach Smith is our legal eagle expert at 7:06 next hour at 7:06. Zach will join us to talk about what came down in New York yesterday. Judge Engeron, Arthur Engeron, Jerome, has it out for Donald Trump. He pounded him. He hammered Eric and Donald. They can't contribute. They cannot be involved in the business for 3 years on Donald's part, 2 years on the son's part, and a total of $355 million for Donald. I think $4 or $5 million each for them. I mean, it was an attempt at purging the Trumps from doing business. I've never seen anything like it. It's crazy. So we're going to ask him about that. Oh, Fanny's Fanny is in trouble. That's all I can say. I mean, if you saw talking about gun violence too because of the Kansas City shooting at that post rally event. That it looks there's so much to unpack there. The heroism of people who tackled would be the perpetrators, and then of course the police. Between Kansas City police and FBI, some 800 strong, uh, were right on top of it. That was great to see. On the other hand, the way the reporting is going in the wake of the charging of these two juveniles, um, uh, a domestic dispute among people. No, this is gangs. This is drugs. This isn't just someone arguing over. I like cinnamon in my vape, and you like spearmint. This is not what this is about. Jerome, we don't talk about cinnamon and spearmint gum anymore. It's what's in your vape. You know, it's interesting. It's new language, but these kids are just they're thugs, would be uh, thugs in grooming. That's what they are, thugs in training. The media doesn't want to call it what it is. I will bet you at least a cup of coffee, maybe a donut to boot, that this has to do with drugs and or gangs. Well, the two are inextricably related in most cases. So there's nothing new under the sun, is there? I mean, we see this rising tide of youth violence. Youth that think if I don't like what you have, or I want what you have, or I'm not getting my way, it's time to pull out the gun and shoot. Um, and of course, the hue and cry right away. Biden, Harris, everyone coming out of the woodwork again. The guns haven't even cooled. The handcuffs are still being unlocked as they charge these people, as they arrest them, before they're coming out of the woodwork for gun control. We'll be talking gun control and what's all wrong with that idea at 8:06. Uh, with Daniel Bolts, along with Luis Valdez at 8:25. We've got to talk about that and restoring our country with Daniel Bolts too. A cavalcade of stars. This is your hour to weigh in. 314-912-1019, the number, and want to hear what you have to say. Okay, let's get into it. Jerome, CPI numbers out this week. Core inflation up 3.1%. I'm sorry, the sticker inflation 3.1%, core inflation 3.4% year over year. A story out that says consumer confidence is down. I'm seeing a small business survey from the National Federation of Independent Businessmen and Women saying uh, that their optimism index, which they report every week, is down this month for the first time in a long time. It's just down a hair, but it's going down. I see some clouds in the economic horizon. The question is, what are you seeing among your friends in your sphere of influence, your network? I'm seeing people looking around saying, it's not quite as rosy as what Joe Biden says. What are you seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. People my age are, I mean, we're already broke. We're the broke generation, but going to the store and seeing things that used to be 99 cents are no longer 99 cents. And the serving sizes on things get smaller, smaller and smaller. We're definitely not happy about it. I think a lot of people my age realize that we got bamboozled with Biden.
Yeah. So, what does the generation say about just public policy wise, taking the partisanship out of it? Because you don't get in this kind of a mess overnight. I mean, yeah, I think the COVID thing was an anomaly of anomalies. I mean, it destroyed, I think, a lot of common sense, economic sense, social sense. Connectedness is going away. So there's a lot of upstream cultural problems, and we'll talk with that about that with Daniel Bolts at 8:06. Um, but do are more and more folks in your generation looking at the government as the solution, or thinking, no, the government is and was the problem, so we need to have the government get out of the way? This is, to me, the 60 billion trillion quadrillion question.
Both. One half the
Both.
government is so depending on which side they're on, at least in my group of people and the people I work with, if you're on one side, then it's entirely the fault of their opposition stopping your side from doing the good stuff, and it's the bad actors within their side that are working with the opposition to make the bad stuff happen. And that's doesn't matter if they're red or they're blue or if they're whatever the party they support. That seems to be the main talking point, is that we need government, we need it to be bigger and powerful, but we need to stop the people we don't like from having their way, don't even work with them. And I'm just like, well, how do you think that's a one party state then? That's
Right.
literally
Yeah.
fascism.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Well, and I see, it's interesting. We have fun on my morning show in Columbia in mid Missouri. We we have a running joke because we have I think Hannah's 22 years old, and we joke about it openly on the air. But whenever the discussions come out about forgiveness of student loan debt, um, she's like, yeah, secretly, I'm okay with it. I'll take it, But on but policy wise, I think we'd all agree if you've signed a document and you owe someone, some company, some entity, some money, you owe them the money. If you didn't either vet your college education and the agenda and the courses that you took in terms of sometimes a preparedness for life, um, and you took underwater basket weaving and advanced women's study in Nigeria, that's fine, that's great, but don't blame me, uh, and don't expect me to pay for it. And by the way, if you expect the taxpayer to pay for it, you're going to be a taxpayer too at some point, or you are a taxpayer by the time you're out of school and paying that debt back. So you need to think about it. But you see, I'm seeing these kind of things come up. I had a good discussion with Senator Mary Elizabeth Coleman, who from the St. Louis, Southwest St. Louis area, out Jefferson County way and around, the other day. And I asked her the very tough question I'm asking all conservatives, and I'm going to ask listeners. And I'd love for listeners to give me a call after this. If you, dear listener, or have a two-party household where both are working, so both members of your household are working, and you have kids. Maybe you have a son or a daughter who are married and both parties are working, and they have kids. And of course, in the General Assembly in Missouri, what's coming up now is great. How are we going to support and expand child care access? Child care access. And I start pondering that, and I think that's interesting. Republicans getting the state involved in subsidies, money coming from general coffers, tax credits, child care tax credits, so that other people can raise a family's children. Now, I don't have a pony in this race anymore. My kids are grown. We were blessed to make the choice. I mean, I worked a couple of jobs on the way up as I was working my way through school and young and residency and practice, paying off my buying into a practice. Not making a lot of money. You don't make a lot of money as you start out as a doctor. Sorry, guys, those of you who think you do, you're wrong. At least in the old days, you had to work your way in. You didn't become an employee making six figures, right away. I guarantee I'll show you the receipts. My wife decided to stay home for the first 3 or 4 years of the kids because until they got into a preschool situation, then she worked part time. What I'm saying here is the sociologists say that the best chance for a child, not the children of two earner households don't make it at all, but just in terms of odds of success and less dropouts, less mental health problems, on and on. You can look at it. It's good if moms are there for the first, several years, and if not mom, then dad, and if not mom or dad, then grandma or grandpa. Okay, that's sociology. That's child development 101. That's indisputable. Okay. It's also indisputable that I should weigh about 15 or 20 pounds less and be in better shape. Okay. I'm not talking about what reality may be, but what we think it should be, what seems to be the best practice. And now we have Republicans who claim to be family people, culturally, ascendant folks, backing a system that there's so much wrong with this from where I see it. A system that will take children away from their moms and moms away from their children, facilitate that with government assistance. Now, I asked Senator Mary Elizabeth Coleman, I said, what do you think about that? There's other ways, by the way, to provide child care if that's what you want to do. Because some families, they choose to do that. They can't do it any other way, whatever. I mean, I'm not going to make those decisions for people. I was involved in starting a child care at the hospital I was running for 8 years and worked at for 16. We decided to take a little bit of a hit on the books annually, lose a little bit of money, but support the staff there so that they could be with their kids, spend lunch with their kids right, across the parking lot. But it was, I'm telling you, it was like an act of Congress to get that thing started. My wife and others, women in the city who had in the town who had raised their kids and wanted to just help out if there was an absentee or if someone got sick, one of the caregivers. Oh my God, you got to get fingerprinted, show me the papers. What's wrong with you? Are you a child abuser? What's wrong with you? You got to be kidding me. And some young lady who was just maybe out of, or maybe high school, wanted to work, for a few hours, because we ran 7 to 7 to match the working shift. And most nurses work 12-hour shifts. Okay, after school. Oh no, you can't. Do you have childcare training? Have you had 20 hours of this? Have you had 8? Are you kidding me? We're talking about holding babies, giving them a bottle. So I talked to state representatives and I talked to other people and say, have you thought about deregulating or at least downsizing the burdensome tyrannical regulations because some pastor or some pastor's wife or some pedophile got into a daycare setting 10 years ago? We suddenly overreact and we overregulate, and it costs buku bucks to run a darn daycare center. Instead, no, let's give more money. Let's child care tax credits. I don't know. And I could, to her credit, Senator Mary Elizabeth Coleman said, I'm not voting. I'm not in favor of this right now, the way the bill stands. Good for her. Good for her. Well, I know a lot of people out there going, Randy, what are you telling women to stay home and put on their slippers and their bathrobes and watch soap operas? No, I don't know. I'm not saying anything. I'm just giving you the facts. Sociology. I'm just giving you the facts. Nothing but the facts. All right, enough on that rant. When we come back, we're going to talk about Fanny, or is it Fanny's Fanny? We'll talk about that on the Tobler Show on News Talk STL 1019 94.1. Stay there, please.
Staring at the faces in a rearview mirror.
When you've got something to say, be heard loud and clear.
If they'll just do what they were voted in to do.
This party needs to get a backbone. They need to get some spine.
Join the conversation.
St. Louis's place to talk.
The Democrats and the Republicans can give us all the lip service they want, but what they need to do is take action today.
1019 and 94.1.
You have to take a stand sometimes.
This is News Talk STL.
News, analysis, and opinion.
Hey, St. Louis, my name is Rob Carter. My new primetime show will explore the collaboration between corrupt media and our corrupted political system. From manipulated elections, open borders, mandated medicines, and unconstitutional lockdowns, what is going on?
The Rob Carter Show.
Let's talk about it on The Rob Carter Show. Join me weeknights from 8 to 10 p.m. on News Talk STL.
Rob Carter, live and local, weeknights at 8
on News Talk STL.
In the fast-paced world of digital marketing, making connections is a challenge for any business. But what if we told you there is a place where connections aren't just made, they're grown? Meet 2060 Digital, your premier Google partner and top-tier digital agency. We don't just follow trends, we set them. At 2060 Digital, we're not just another agency, we're your strategic partner. We dive deep into your challenges and develop solutions that drive measurable outcomes. Ready to elevate your digital presence with campaigns that connect? Google 2060 Digital today.
Mark McCloskey here. Let me tell you about my friend Ian McFarland and his company, Modern Weapons Systems. They sell the newest top-tier weapons found on current movies, TV shows, and video games. They also carry a full line of NFA items such as suppressors, short-barreled rifles, and shotguns. Plus, they offer the best laser engraving services in town. If you're looking for the best value and family-friendly service for all your gun needs in Greater St. Louis area, visit Ian and his team at Modern Weapons Systems in Fenton. Visit them online at modernweaponsystems.com or call at 314-252-0486.
Hey, Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros. When Christine and I bought our new house, we knew the gutters were an issue, and after meeting the Gutter Pros team, we knew that they were right for us. Gutter Pros is your all-in-one gutter service team that offers a variety of affordable solutions, and they even offer free estimates, so there's no cost to you to find out if they are right for your home, just like they were for ours. If you're having a problem with your gutters, contact the Gutter Pros now, because with Gutter Pros, water goes where they tell it to. Call them at 314-656-7195 or visit gutterpros.com.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have any body to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer. On News Watch Talk us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL.
And Facebook, and it's fun to watch the show sometimes as well as listen to it. I like watching my various shows on News Talk STL. You know, it's a great app, by the way. If you can't watch, but you want to, just check out the app. The app's great. The website's fantastic. Have you been watching this Fani? I think I have evidence, and I cannot find it, but I found an old clip where before she became famous and pursuing Donald Trump, and of course that started in her campaign against the former DA. I think she was Fanny, but then she became Fani. Anyway, Fanny's in trouble, and she knows it. Her beau, or former beau, the special prosecutor who had a personal injury. He was basically an ambulance chaser, and I don't know what else he did, but Nathan Wade. He had a long testimony on Thursday. Was sweating bullets. The guy was sweating. I mean, there wasn't enough water there on the stand to replace the fluid loss, and they were just hammering him on after a witness who was her friend and employee earlier in the day had said that the relationship existed before he was hired, which is a super red flag. And then her team had been trying to quash the subpoena for her to appear on the stand in this trial, whether she or not should be disqualified. Not trial, but a hearing. Well, she just appears in front of the camera in what some have speculated is a backwards dress, but it wasn't backwards. It just wasn't becoming on her. That's all I'll say. And then she takes the stand and says, I need some papers. They pause the court. Someone goes and copies the papers. And then this is just one of the interchanges between her and the attorney for the defense who's raised this issue about her being disqualified, Ashley Merchant. Take a listen.
What we're talking about, I'm very confused.
You've
now.
never given Mr. Wade money through Cash App.
No.
The only money you've ever given him outside of a contract is cash.
I didn't give him money in a contract, so that was cute, but I didn't give him money outside in a contract. What happened is, no, we're going to answer it since you said it. He worked more hours than he was paid, and the county paid him for the work that he did. So don't be cute with me and then think that you're not going to get an answer.
I'm sorry. I waffle as I watch this, and clip 5 shows a little montage of the various arrogant, defiant, obtuse, and in-your-face ways that Fani was interacting mostly with the attorneys that were cross-examining her and questioning her, but even on occasion the judge. And here's a little bit of that. And then we'll talk about the judge.
Well, it's highly offensive when someone lies on you, and it's highly offensive when they try to implicate that you slept with somebody the first day you met with them, and I take exception to it. I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial. So let's be clear, because you lied in this. Let me tell you which one you lied in. Right here. I think you lied right here. No. This is the truth. Judge, and it is a lie. It is a lie.
The romantic relationship ended before the indictment was returned. Yes or no?
To a man, yes.
Well, to a man, yes. To you, no?
She's explained this, Mr. Sedan. She's explained this.
Okay. Now, my wife and I listened to that. She looked at him and said, to a man, yes, and sort of, snidely. I'm not sure what she meant by that. When she said, she was asked by the attorney, had the relationship ended, blah, blah, blah. To a man, I guess, meaning to you, counselor, yes. Was that implying that the sexual relationship had ended? And so that means by a man's definition, the relationship had ended? I'm not sure what. This was a defiant, condescending, arrogant woman who has, from the get-go, before she was elected, made it clear that Donald Trump is a political target. During her campaign against the former DA, she explicitly said over and over that how in the world can you people of Fulton County, Georgia, elect someone who sleeps with her boss, with an employee? Hello? She's a political hack. She's an embarrassment to the justice system. And I think she needs to be disqualified. So does her paramour. Nathan Wade. Now, what that means for the trial, we don't know. But I think what it says about the justice system, at least in Fulton County, Georgia, is that it has now become anything. The blindfold has been taken off of Lady Liberty. It's gone. It's just gone. Exhibit B on the blindfold being gone. Judge Arthur Engeron, who before the trial even began had said, and the facts had been presented up in New York, with Letitia James being like a clone, or is Fanny a clone of Letitia James, I don't know, who have made political fodder out of going after Donald Trump. It's clear. They said it. In both cases, they just, I'm going to go after Donald Trump. I'm going to see that he. Where were the officials before that? If there's so much there, and they're going back in the case of the Engeron trial and the so-called civil fraud by some kind of a bizarre law that has never been used in this manner in New York, with no identified victims, no harm done, big name lenders who. I don't know if you've ever bought a house or a car or anything on credit. Have you, Jerome? Bought a car, anything where you had to, talk about your net worth or your whatever? You had to, you make a statement, a financial statement, right? You've done that.
Yeah, I have a vehicle, pre-owned vehicle that I needed to get a loan through the dealership for, and I know the way it works. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're going to sell a house, you work with the realtor and you say, I think my house is worth whatever, $300,000. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But, everyone thinks their house is worth more than it is, than they ultimately get for, except in rare instances, like in the surge in housing prices when the rates were still low a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago. It went on for a year or two. And, people were paying more than the asking price. That's an anomaly. But it goes to show you that, you may think your house is worth crazy amounts of money. And in a market like that, it may be worth crazy amounts of money. Okay. But then the company that wants to lend you money comes in, they do an appraisal, they do their own vetting. Jerome, if you wanted to sell me your used Studebaker, you don't know what a Studebaker is, but go look it up. You'll find that interesting. And you say, no, Randy, really? Really. I mean, this is worth, this is $100,000 automobile. I'm telling you. Well, I'd get on Edmunds.com. I'd go, I'd get in the news. I'd look all over the web. I'd do my searching. Jerome, no. Studebaker's maybe. in mint condition, maybe might be worth, $10,000. I don't know. And then we'd have a negotiation. You'd say, yeah, but mine is a mint condition Studebaker. I say, okay, I'll give you a couple thousand extra. That's how that works. I couldn't go to the bank and get a loan for $100,000 Studebaker. And if I did get a loan for whatever amount, and if I paid it back, and if the bank didn't make an action against me, a claim against me, what have we come to in this country when the state can do that? Especially, even though there may be a law in New York. I don't know how anyone can live in New York. I don't know how anyone can reside in New York. I don't know. That's aside. But if this is an unprecedented use of a crazy law that just doesn't seem to make sense, you can only say that this had to be politically motivated. I don't know any other way you can bake it. Now, I guess from a legal sense, if it's legal and if there's a crazy law, and by some construct of the law and the courts and the due process, he broke the law and they broke the mold when they utilized the law, I guess in a technical sense, I have nothing to say. But from a political sense and from the larger and more existential, what does this mean for America question, that's the big one that is at operation here. That's what's in play. What does this say about America when now political opponents can use vagaries of the justice system to go after the opposition? It's just because we all know that we all break some law, minor, sometimes major, in some way. The statutes locally, statewide, federally are just you couldn't fill a small bathroom floor with them. I mean, you would if you tried to stack them and go up in a small room, there'd not be enough room for them all. And so, how are you supposed to know? And yet, to know that if you aspire to go into public service, whether it's the school board or whether it's the president, and someone finds that you made some minor good faith error and finds a prosecutor who's on their side of the political divide, your life could be disrupted, turned over, and you end up belly up financially at a minimum, unless you're Donald Trump, and reputationally you're ruined because someone decided to use a vague, obscure, law and find a way to punish you. That is what you and I need to worry about. Donald Trump will take care of Donald Trump. He's going to be fine. I don't have violins out for him. Let's keep that in clear perspective. There are, I want to use a word firmer than rumors. I think there is some, according to people who claim to have been wronged by Donald Trump organization companies not paying their bills to contractors, subcontractors, those kind of murmurs have been in play for a long time. Shame on him if that's the case. Does he embellish everything? Yes. It was a perfect phone call. It's the best fence. It's the greatest economy. He's wrong there. It wasn't the greatest economy. It just flat wasn't. And those of you who think it was, you can go look at stats on other great economies, and I can show you that's not the case. It was a better economy than we've had. But he spent like a drunken sailor. He didn't want to rein in Social Security and Medicare. I mean, a lot of things that should be done in a conservative manner weren't done because he's a populist. Let's pinch ourselves and realize that. That doesn't negate the fact that he's been terribly, terribly abused by the justice system. And that should concern us from that perspective. But that's a different question. That's a political question. It's a policy question. And we need to hold his feet to the fire, by the way, in my opinion, and stop sort of the cultic worship we have of Donald Trump. That's a whole nother issue. Are the phones lighting up there? Did you call me a cultic worshiper of Donald Trump? Well, I think we all get into our cults of personality. I mean, look at the Obamaites. They did the same thing. But whether it's Judge Engoron, who in his decision, you read some of that decision, and I mean, he's clearly got invective. He's got invective and he's got vitriol for Donald Trump. And he's an elected pipsqueak jurisdiction judge, you know, and he's going to flex his muscle and show people who they are. All right, we're going to take a break. On the other side of this break, you know, Robert Hur may have said that Joe Biden was memory lapsing and frail intellectually. But I think there's more, and I'll prove it when we come back. I'll stay there.
News, analysis, opinion.
It almost seems common sense, but, alas, common sense isn't so common these days.
News Talk STL.
Retirement planning used to be easy. You put in your 40 years with the company, get the gold watch, and life's good, right? Wrong. Randy Tobler here. Planning for retirement today involves balancing critical decisions regarding your investments, pensions, Social Security, and more. That's why I'm urging you to start planning now. It's also why you should connect with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. They bring a combined 100 years of wealth management experience to help you with your retirement plan. You can hear Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert every Saturday morning at 9 during On the Money here on News Talk STL 1019. Their team is ready to help you design your retirement plan with the care and commitment you deserve. Request your complimentary retirement plan consultation today at clearpathinvesting.com or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company, Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE. We all know the healthcare system's broken. It's not about you. It's about the code, the bill, the 7-minute appointment. Hi, it's Dr. Randy Tobler, and I've developed a better way that restores old-fashioned values with a holistic approach to your health care. That means affordable, available, no copay or deductible primary care. And with my 30-plus years as an OBGYN, there's added value for women and couples. Whether it's a new or nagging problem, you need a second look at a troubling diagnosis, or simply want a trusting, relationship-based healthcare experience, give us a look at Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Our mission is to provide exceptional, accessible, and truly affordable care where the focus is on you, not insurance denial and cookbook medicine experts. And with your membership, there's a number of perks, including hundreds of free meds, in-office ultrasound, common diagnostic tests, and more. Interested in seeing me or learning more about healthcare the way it ought to be? Schedule an appointment or a discovery call at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
If the time has come to sell the house, you know you're empty nesters now, the kids are gone. Why do we need all these bedrooms? Yeah, selling the house may be a good idea. A better idea when you want to sell your house is to go to the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway. That's our great friends Rodney and Jen Wallner, who are so good at this, they sell 15 times more homes than your average realtor. So let them help you sell your house. Just go to Rodney and Jen Wallner. Right, Mike Ferguson?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Vic. As a matter of fact, the first time I talked to Rodney and Jen about this cabin project that my wife and I have, they looked at all the factors and said, if I were you, I'd wait. When was the last time you heard somebody in real estate say, wait, don't buy something right now? Well, he knew the market conditions were going to change, and they did to our favor, but that shows how good they are at this and how honest and ethical Rodney and Jen Wallner are. That's why I won't work with anybody else. You shouldn't either. Give them a call today, 314-810-SOLD.
This hour of the Randy Tobler Show is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com.
Thank God for the daylight. I spent a long time in the dark, felt good saying goodbye. Waking up to a brand new heart. And if you're sleeping like I used to be, in a grave that holds you tight, there's a savior calling. Promising a brand new life. He's saying, wake up, sleeper, open your eyes.
Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer, on News Talk STL. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL.
Welcome back to the program. At 7:05, we're going to be talking about the various legal entanglements. So we're going to be unpacking that with Zach Smith And at 7:25, our own Eric Robert, who you hear with Bob Stockdale here on the Money right after this program every Saturday, on some conflicting and interesting and some stuff that has me nervous in the economic scene. That's 7:25. Virginia Crew to 7:45. Man, we got a busy show all day long. So just turn the radio, the app, the Alexa, whatever you're listening on, just turn it on, leave it there wherever you go. Jerome's over there making sure everything is in order, and I thank him for that because it's a busy board and a list today that we have for him to manage. So we thank him as always. Now, it's been the Democrats, I think, are going to try to turn the Robert Hur special counsel report that came out saying, he did prosecutable things, but we're not going to prosecute him in the documents scandal where he had the documents, the classified documents in the box and disheveled box in the Corvette garage, because his memory is poor, and he's he's a frail mind, and he'd be sympathetic to the jury, and I don't think that we could get a conviction. And so I think the Democrats, if they decide to keep him as the nominee, are going to spin it like, well, he's just good old Joe. And after all, like Ronald Reagan, when there were questions that were raised at the end of his second term, whether he was beginning to fail a little bit, maybe he was not of as clear mind as he was earlier, but he was our father. He was the father, the current father of the country. We all know George was the father of the country, but, he's the figurehead, and he makes a good presentation, and we all love the old Joe from Scranton. Good old Joe. That's what they're going to try to do. And here's a little evidence of that. Just a little bit of this montage. Here we go.
Beer brewed here, it is used to make the brew beer. My memory is fine. The president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate. A solid meeting with and Mitterrand from from France looked at me and said,
elderly man with a poor memory.
I said, I'm going to be a president for everybody, whether they live in a red state or a green state.
Okay, so I think you get a flavor. I mean, you could see, just think about it. Tomorrow, you're going to be in church. Maybe today you're in synagogue. Well, if you're in synagogue, I don't know, unless if you're non-Orthodox, maybe you're listening. But if you're Orthodox, you're not listening. So Jerome, who am I talking to? I don't know. But, church, synagogue, a family meeting. Maybe tonight there's a game you're going to, a hockey, who knows? And, once in a while we find ourselves around older people, and we sort of, we're gracious because they forget that they've told you the same story 10 times over. Maybe they don't remember your name, and that you have to remind them. Maybe they get it wrong, or they call, if your kids, all of our kids have the same initials. I'm finding myself, well, it started even when they were young kids. That was a big mistake, like Sean, Sammy, and Shannon, and Shannon, Sammy, who I get them mixed up. And we make accommodation for that, right? We make accommodation. But then remember that he went crazy when he did that news conference after the release of Robert Hur's report. He went crazy, but how dare he ask me about my son's death? Remember when they said in the report he couldn't remember the year of his son's death, Bo? Because he brings it up all the time, inappropriately, when he's talking with the families of fallen soldiers. I mean, when he's talking with cancer survivors, anyone, he's just unbelievable. That he brings it up all the time, and he always says that Bo died in Iraq. No, he didn't die in Iraq. He died in the States of a brain cancer. It was tragic. It was, and Joe has had some tragic things in his life, right? In a crash, lost his wife and a child. And I mean, I'm not saying the guy hasn't had a tragic life, which makes his behavior and his clinging to power as he's failing even more tragic. It makes it more tragic. Okay, but remember, he went after her, and he was indignant. How dare they bring that up? What are they doing? Well, NBC News and now many other outlets report, and in fact, there is probably going to be a release of the transcript from the DOJ to prove exactly what happened. But here's what's allegedly really happened. Clip 1.
President Biden became heated, you'll remember, responding to the special counsel's assertion that he could not remember within several years when his son Bo died. Last week, the president criticized her for asking him about it.
How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business.
But tonight, NBC News has learned that Hur never asked that question, according to two people familiar with the interview last fall. They say it was the president, not Hur or his team, who first introduced Beau Biden's death. The sources say the president got the date, May 30th, correct, but not the year.
All right. So it turns out that he went after her, trying to imply, well, he made so many lies during that. It was just a fiery press conference he had. And he tries to turn it around and make it like he's a victim of some kind of animus by a Trump appointed, well, it was a Garland appointed, but a guy that came to the bench through Donald Trump, a partisan investigation, right? I maintain the worst thing you can be is an elderly man of poor memory, failing intellect, but a vile and deceitful individual. And I think Joe Biden is vile and deceitful. And here's proof, clip 3.
You know, after the fellow who's running again, well, after he did not move on making sure that we dealt with vaccinating the American public. We ended up losing.
All right. That we ended up losing 1 million people, he goes on to say. That frosted my buns. That got my goat. That triggered me, to use the woke terminology. I am telling you, think about it. Say what you will about the vaccine. Throw that aside, whether you believe it was net helpful. Maybe for some people, I happen to believe for many elderly and otherwise at-risk people in the first couple variants of that virus, enormously successful. I witnessed it. We saw the change that happened. All that aside, never has there been such rapid and, for all of its faults, fairly well vetted, as well as could be done in a existentially, potentially threatening time in our country from a public health standpoint. Donald Trump did all he could, his people, the scientists working to get that vaccine developed with space-age technology, which, by the way, will probably someday change your life or someone you know. Maybe not through vaccines, but the mRNA technology, it's already doing that. But the technology is amazing. It will be great. It needs to be refined. It needs to be targeted. It needs to be better researched. Great technology. He got that going like only an entrepreneurial mind could do. I got my first dose in December. I got the second dose in January. Less than a year from the onslaught of one of the most threatening viruses the planet's seen in decades. And for him to especially if you're going to claim ownership, vile, deceitful Joe Biden, of rolling out the vaccine and saving millions of lives, you wouldn't have had a vaccine to roll out, my friend. So you Democrats out there, they're going to try to make a sympathy play for Joe Biden. No, we're not going to fall for it. This guy is the worst combination in leadership. Failing intellectually, failing from a memory standpoint. He's amnestically challenged. He's cognitively challenged. But it's on a substrate of vile, deceitful, hateful, a seedbed of nothing but destruction in public policy. This guy is the anti-leader. And don't kid yourself. If you're in the middle somewhere and you think, well, you know, he's better than Trump because Trump's all over you know what? Trump's got his faculties. Not crazy. He may be manic. I think he may be manic. He may be narcissistic. I'm pretty sure of that. But you know, the difference between genius and crazy is it's a fine line. Elon Musk, Bill Gates. You could go back in history. People thought Henry Ford was crazy. People have thought that all of the game changers in society, just a little bit of crazy. But they make They make purposeful, intentional public policy decisions that are at least transparent. I don't think there's any doubt about where Donald Trump stands on public policy. I have no belief that anything Joe Biden or anyone in his orbit, what they say, has very little to do with what their agenda is. And that is a super califragilistically frightening thought. And it goes for Chuck Schumer and Adam Schiff and all the rest of them. And by the way, some of them in the Republican Party too. And we'll talk about all of these things as we move through our robust guest list, starting at the top of the next hour when we talk legal entanglements of Donald Trump. We talk with Zach Smith. After that, Eric Robert, then Virginia Cruda. Daniel Bolts joins us at 8:06. Entrepreneur, author, and founder of the Statue of Enduring Freedom. Yes, a new Statue of Liberty called the Statue of Enduring Freedom. And Luis Valdez for gun matters in the wake of the KC shooting. And Jerome, I did want to talk when he's on. We want to talk about this thing that really slipped under my radar. If you haven't registered, if you're listening to me from Illinois and you haven't registered your AR-15, you're breaking the law. Is that right, Jerome?
Yeah, so I've sent you the list of all the models that are officially banned, but you had until January 1st to register any quote-unquote assault-style weapon, such as the AR-15, any kind of variants. The list is over 170 guns, and anybody that did not register by now is officially, they have an illegal firearm, which is absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion. So I can't wait to see your thoughts on that, Doctor.
And you know what? If you think you can escape the law, maybe just don't tell them that you listen to News Talk STL 1019-94.1, because then, especially if they're a rogue prosecutor, you're in their targets, right? You're clearly in the crosshairs of the AR style weapon that is now a partisan two-tier justice system. Unless you're Hillary Clinton, unless you're Joe Biden or Hunter, you're in a world of hurt. We'll be back.
And if you're sleeping like I used to be, in a grave that holds you tight.
Free speech is alive and well in America.
Thanks for taking my call.
Right here.
You know what's going on?
Have a great awakening.
You see through the smoke screen.
It's cool to be woke. News Talk STL. Until it's not. News, analysis, opinion.
Katie here, and I'd like to talk to you guys about Michael's Flooring Outlet. You could gain peace of mind with Michael's Flooring Outlet for your flooring and carpet installation needs. Their team of experts ensures that the job is done right the first time, providing you with attentive and personalized service. Just like my parents, you can trust them to replace your old carpet with beautiful hardwood flooring. Visit one of their 3 locations in Dardenne Prairie, St. Peters, or Creve Coeur, or check them out at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
Congratulations to everyone at Connor Roofing. We chose the Connor Roofing team for our National Best of the Best award for customer satisfaction without telling anyone at Connor Roofing, based on over 30 years of fantastic customer reviews. Rob and Kathy Connor and their team deliver very high quality roofing, siding, gutters, storm damage restoration at a fair price with integrity. Connor Roofing has had an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau for years. Count on Connor. For an estimate, please visit connorroofing.com. That's CONNER roofing.com.
Sundays at 5 on News Talk STL.
All your hard-earned tax dollars and mine are going to fund illegal aliens who come across the border penniless, jobless, skillless, and they're given a cell phone, an identity, and a cash stipend every month.
Mark McCloskey on fire.
That beats your Social Security income if you should have the good nature to work your ass off your whole life and retire.
Mark McCloskey on fire. Sundays at 5 on News Talk STL.
Brought to you in part by Modern Weapons Systems in Fenton.
The Freedom Principle and News Talk STL invite you to a special St. Louis City Town Hall, Thursday, February 22nd at the St. Louis Police Officers Association on Hampton Avenue. Join moderator Tim Jones and expert panelists for a crucial discussion, building a better, safer St. Louis City. Learn what legislators are doing in Jefferson City to protect and build a safer community for all citizens. The St. Louis City Town Hall is free and open to the public. For more information, visit freedomprincipalmo.org.
Larry Connors, USA.
Hunter Biden and his artwork.
Excuse me, Hunter. Apparently you're afraid of my words. What a coward.
The art gallerist apparently claimed that one of Hunter's financial backers purchased most of his paintings for $875,000. What's this? Oh, it's a scribble, but really it's a man walking into his future and seeing his past at the same time.
You're the epitome of white privilege.
They were laundering money, and he had all of his friends coming forward to help him out.
Larry Connors, weeknights at 6 on News Talk STL.
Suck it up.
It's not a big deal.
Snap out.
Just get over it.
We've all heard it. But if you're experiencing extreme stress, it's not just in your head. It can affect your entire body because toxic stress can hurt us physically without us even knowing it. If you've lost a job, worry about your next meal, or have trouble making it through the day, if you're feeling the effects of stress, we can help. Text STRESS to 211-211 to find a solution.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Russia, Ukraine, and the war on Europe's eastern borders were always set to dominate this conference. But now the perceived threat from Moscow has been brought into sharp focus. The sudden, untimely death in a Russian prison camp of President Putin's most prominent critic has provoked universal condemnation of the Kremlin here. Meanwhile, the questions over NATO persist.
That's the BBC's Frank Gardner reporting. Political writer Pete Domenech says one reason for the intra-party disagreements in the GOP over aid to Ukraine is a lack of convincing advocates for the importance of U.S. leadership.
Republicans who would normally be standing up and taking the side of people who are fighting and balancing against these authoritarian regimes, they're put back on their heels by the fact that they have a military and an administration policy that they don't trust.
Correspondent Shelley Adler reports there's been a verdict in Trump's civil fraud trial.
A New York judge has ruled against Donald Trump, imposing a $364 million penalty over what the judge ruled was a years-long scheme to dupe banks and others with financial statements that inflated the former president's wealth. In delivering the verdict, Judge Arthur Engoron backed away from a prior decision that would have dissolved the former president's companies. Trump has denied wrongdoing, and his lawyers have said they'll appeal. The stiff penalty was a win for New York Attorney General Letitia James, who sued Trump over what she said was not just harmless bragging, but years of deceptive practices. I'm Shelley Adler.
More on these stories at townhall.com.
We all know that aches and pains come with simply getting older, but it doesn't mean you have to it. That's why I want to tell you about a special lady, Leah from Ohio, and her Relief Factor story. One Sunday, Leah was sitting on the couch in so much pain she was literally in tears. That's when she decided to try Relief Factor. Just 8 days later, she found relief, and she continued to get better and better. To quote her, she said, "I am truly amazed at this product. Like me, who after 9, almost 10 years, almost a decade of low back pain, lost that pain thanks to Relief Factor." If you're living with aches and pains, see how Relief Factor, a daily drug-free supplement, could help you feel and live better every day. Get the 3-week quick starter pack at relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF. It all comes with a feel better or your money back guarantee. That number, 1-800-4RELIEF. relieffactor.com.
A Northern California judge under investigation by a state agency.
Allegations include making anti-Semitic remarks when addressing a deputy public defender, failing to recuse himself from cases involving attorneys and other people he socialized with, sexually harassing women he socialized with, and others. The Humboldt County Superior Court judges.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
I like supporting local companies that give back to the community. For more than 40 years, Vincent's Jewelers has helped raise more than $1.5 million for local charities. So I'm personally asking that when you're shopping for jewelry, give Vincent's a chance. And in turn, Vincent's will give even more to our community. On Olive, just east of 270. New specials every day on vincentsjewelers.com or Vincent's Facebook.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo for the cleaning pros at Zero Res, who are spreading the love for the month of February. We've trusted Zero Res with our home for years, and right now they have an incredible offer. Just book a cleaning in the month of February and mention the Colombo special, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at just $119, plus they'll throw in a free hallway, and you can take $50 off an air duct cleaning. Just mention the Colombo special when you call 314-474-2020 or book online at ZeroResSTL.com.
Look through your children's eyes to see the true magic of a forest. It's a storybook world for them. You look and see a tree. They see the wrinkled face of a wizard with arms outstretched to the sky. They see treasure in pebbles. They see a windy path that could lead to adventure. And they see you, their fearless guide through this fascinating world.
Find a forest near you and start exploring at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hey, St. Louis, my name is Rob Carter. If you are sick and tired of the corporate news bubble, if you like unedited information free from corporate money, if you want straight talk with no script, join me weeknights from 8 to 10 p.m. on The Rob Carter Show.
Live and local, weeknights at 8 on News Talk STL. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL.
New York, there was no victim here. The banks were represented by the best, biggest, most prestigious law firms in the state of New York, actually in the country. Some of the biggest and best law firms, in all cases, the biggest and best law firms. That's who represented them. The banks got back their money. Again, there was never a default. There was never a problem. Everything was perfect. There was no crime. The crime is against me.
Well, there you go. That's Donald Trump after the earth-shattering and bombshell penalty awarded by Judge Arthur Engeron yesterday in that, quote, civil fraud, close quote, case. To help us unpack that, as he always does, is our legal analyst of record on the program, highly paid, Zach Smith, legal fellow and manager of the Supreme Court and Appellate Advocacy Program at Heritage. How you doing, Zach?
I'm doing okay, Randy. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. I don't know if we can afford another segment with you, but just send me the bill and we'll see if the management sends back payment on it. Now, hey, I really do appreciate you.
I'll double my fee next time. How about that?
Well, no, and listen, if you did charge me, it would be worth every bit of it. I do appreciate this. And Zach, of course, he knows more about rogue prosecutors than probably anyone in the country because he's written a book about it called Rogue Prosecutors, How Radical Soros Lawyers Are Destroying America's Communities. Zach, I think everyday Americans look at this and we hear from, we get bits and pieces about some of the context of this. We think, it sounds like a crazy law, but it also sounds like prosecutors in New York have been relatively restrained in using it until Donald Trump comes along. Is that a fair construct on the matter?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, she ran for office on the pledge in part to get Donald Trump, to go after him and his companies. And keep in mind, when she initially brought this case, it's a civil case, not a criminal one. So prison was never an option, but essentially Donald Trump's ability to make a living, to run his companies was at issue in this case. He's now been barred from doing that for the next 3 years. His companies will be placed essentially under a type of monitor, type of receivership, type of arrangement. And he's been fined a record-setting amount. Letitia James asked for a $370 million fine against Donald Trump. The judge imposed a $355 million fine, with $4 million being fined against Don Jr. and Eric as well. So this is, absolutely a stunning development, and Donald Trump can appeal it. I suspect he will, but it's unclear whether he would succeed in that appeal effort.
Well, and I guess I haven't read the statute. I have to admit that, but it appears to me from the reporting I've seen, and I'd like you to unpack whether that's true or not, that the judge has a wide berth in terms of making any kind of capricious award that the judge wants to make at the request of the prosecutor. Is that essentially what's at play here?
Yeah, it is. And keep in mind, the judge at the outset of this trial said that he had already found that Donald Trump and his companies had committed fraud. And so the entire trial, all the testimony, all the witnesses we've seen and talked about over the last several months, that's really just been in relation to the penalty phase, how much money the judge was going to fine Trump and the Trump organization. We found out yesterday it's a record-setting amount. What I found interesting, Randy, is the judge's opinion in this case was about 92 pages, is very lengthy, and the judge made some interesting comments in that opinion. He took shots at Donald Trump personally, said that when he testified, he often, went on irrelevant rants and tangents, and that really struck me because when you compare what the judge said about Donald Trump, complained about him, and compare it to what was happening simultaneously in Fulton County, Georgia, with Fannie Willis there, and her testimony, which often sounded rambling in some respects, often went on and on issues unrelated to the questions she was asked. I think it really paints a stark contrast and highlights what so many people have been complaining about, that there is the appearance, if not the reality, of a double standard of justice in our country today.
Okay, well, yeah, let's go on that. Now, you're a former, worked in the U.S. Attorney's Office as a prosecutor in Florida, and you know how these matters go. I guess those were mostly criminal matters, but when I hear about sentencing, and I think in terms of the defendant's conduct influencing sentencing, I always think of it in terms of various criminal matters where the judge will say, well, you were contrite and, whatever. I mean, I think in my memory cobwebs, it seems as though the defendant's conduct maybe can influence that. But it sounds like, from what I've read, little bits and pieces of the judgment here, it seems like he just kept hammering on lack of contrition and, the behavior of Donald Trump as sort of upping the ante here. Is that typical for judges to do, especially in a civil case?
I would say not in this particular fashion, Randy. Typically in a criminal case, and this isn't a criminal case, but I think the analogy fits. In a criminal case, the judge looks at whether a defendant has accepted responsibility for his or her crime. And if they accept the responsibility, the judge may sentence that individual a little more leniently, give them credit for that acceptance. Essentially, what the judge in this case is saying is that Donald Trump did not accept responsibility for his supposed wrongdoing, that Donald Trump didn't, acknowledge that what he did was wrong. He said, I think their statements bordered on pathological in some instances. But it goes back to what you started earlier. I think part of the reason that Donald Trump didn't express supposed contrition is because the case strikes so many as being so odd. As you mentioned, the testimony at trial was that no one really lost any money. The banks who loaned Donald Trump money, these were not mom and pop operations. These are very sophisticated banks that are used to doing extensive due diligence, that are used to engaging with other very sophisticated counterparties. And so the idea that they not only didn't lose money, but that they then subsequently engaged in further business with Donald Trump and the Trump organization, I think really speaks volumes. The other issue that's come up is, since there's no victims in this case, who gets the money? The $355 million. It's not designed to make victims whole for some loss they experienced. It's really a penalty. that is being inflicted and exacted on Trump and the Trump organization. And again, I do think this decision is very chilling in some respects. And, I've seen some commentators say, Donald Trump's lawyer said, that it will likely make people think twice before starting a business in the state of New York going forward. And I think that's probably correct.
And I think for folks listening, and I think about myself. I mean, anyone who puts themselves in a conservative arena in public, and business owners may contribute to conservative candidates, or you become known as a conservative, as someone on the other side, okay? And you begin to wonder, have we come at a point in our country? I mean, you hear the hyperbolic statements, maybe they're not, from people on the national level. Oh, we live in a banana republic. But I think, wow, is it possible that we could be in such a tilted justice environment now throughout the country? Has it permeated through the law schools, through the bar associations, whatever, and then ultimately people who become prosecutors and U.S. attorneys and district attorneys and civil city attorneys? Could we be an environment where, man, you better not show your political colors, because if someone on the other side wants to use a law against you, they'll find a way to hurt you? I mean, is that paranoid, or could that be becoming reality?
I think in some sense we're already there, Randy, unfortunately. I mean, look at what is happening to Donald Trump. I mentioned earlier about Fannie Willis in Georgia. The details of that hearing are absolutely, salacious in some sense. The idea that she could be personally benefiting from her prosecution of Donald Trump through kickbacks and gifts and other things that she received from her lover, who she hired to move that case forward, is really shocking in some sense. We've seen Jack Smith and his prosecutions applying novel theories of the law, essentially asking the U.S. Supreme Court to suspend normal business so that he can get to trial more quickly against Donald Trump. And when you compare that to some of the things that have come about Joe Biden and his classified documents, that he is not going to be charged, in part because of his memory issues, apparently. But compare that to Donald Trump, and then what's happening with Hunter Biden as well, the sweetheart plea deal that the Justice Department initially cut him. It's really troubling. The other thing I'll say quickly, Randy, Cully and I, we recently put out a piece at the Federalist where we talked about the double standard that many state bar associations are applying to prosecutors and other lawyers based on their political preferences. If you're on the left, you get a slap on the wrist. If you get pursued at all, and the poster child for this is Kevin Kleinsmith, the FBI lawyer who altered a document that was then used to get a FISA warrant against Carter Page. He pled guilty to that crime of doing that. He got a slap on the wrist. He's already a member back in good standing of the D.C. bar. Compare that to some of the efforts to take the bar licenses away of Trump's attorneys, other conservative lawyers. It really is a shocking double standard.
Well, and then you talk about how reality is becoming TV science fiction drama. I think of series like the X-Files and 24, and then we get this report that potentially at the very heart, the root cause of this whole Russia collusion hoax that was foisted on the public via formerly respected intelligence and operations like the CIA and the FBI. It was reported that Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger report, and again, that allegedly the CIA got the Five Eyes, other foreign intel agencies, to quote bump people in Trump's orbit, maybe the Carter Pages and the Papadopouloses of the world and others, to give the appearance that they were somehow colluding with Russia. I mean, this is stuff that it would take a Hollywood screenwriter probably having to use a little Chat GPT to think of. Should we take off our tinfoil hat now? I mean, is it time to take off the tinfoil hat? This is no longer myth. This is reality.
Yeah, look, unfortunately, I don't think we need the tinfoil hat, Randy, because if you told people this without giving them the backstory, they probably wouldn't believe you that this was happening. But look, I think it's a very real question. It just was came out earlier this week that one of the FBI informants that had been providing information on Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, the FBI arrested him for lying. I'm all for arresting individuals who knowingly provide false information if that turns out to be the case. But then it raises a very real question. Why has no one been arrested and prosecuted in relation to the entire Trump-Russia collusion hoax debacle for the false information they provided? And it goes back to that idea that we're talking about. I think many Americans are extremely frustrated, rightfully so, with the appearance, if not the reality, of the double standard of justice that we have in our country today.
And I don't know if you saw Jesse Waters last evening, but it really brought to mind, I guess, some dots that I had not connected. But one after another, he said, boy, isn't that curious? Alexander Smirnov, who was formerly a highly reliable FBI source for years, suddenly becomes unreliable and he's arrested. Then there was the Israeli informant who got arrested. Devin Archer has been, isn't he under some indictment? Former Hunter Biden associate. You go down the line here, and I'm not saying these guys are lily white clean, but isn't it curious? Why is it that all these guys are arrested, but not, what about Peter Strzok? What about, some others, like you say, that have been involved in this collusion to basically undo the Trump presidency for 3 years? That's the thing. If it were a both and, I think you could look at it and say, okay, they're being fair on both sides. You're right. But I don't know. It's just a frightening time, Zach. And I think everyday Americans are very worried that no longer do we live in a country where Lady Justice is blind. I think the blindfold's been removed.
Well, I think, unfortunately, you are right in many instances today. And again, I think it's a very troubling place for us to be as a country. The only silver lining to this, I will say, Randy, is that I think people are waking up to the fact that this exists. They're extremely troubled by it. They're starting to push back against it. And I think even though Merrick Garland, Biden's attorney general, came into office pledging to be an apolitical, attorney general who would even-handedly apply the law, that certainly has not turned out to be the case. But that's exactly what we need today. We need an attorney general, a Justice Department who is going to, do their job, faithfully enforce the law, and hold people accountable, regardless of their political parties, their race, their creed, anything like that. But unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get that under this current administration.
Yeah. Well, if we get a new man or woman in the Oval Office with an elephant in their T-shirt, can I throw your name in the ring? I mean, I'd be happy to write a letter or whatever.
They wouldn't let me be dog catcher, Randy, but I appreciate it.
Well, no, but you have uncovered and looked at the underbelly of the new prosecutor world, which sadly there's too many Soros and Soros-inspired prosecutors in your book, Rogue Prosecutors. So hope folks will pick that up and take a look at it. Zach, as always, I really appreciate the in-depth analysis. Thank you, my friend.
Of course. Great talking with you, Randy. Take care.
Likewise. Zach Smith. I mean, when you have a former U.S. attorney, a deputy attorney from the Northeastern District of Florida telling you that this is no longer tinfoil hat country, got to be scared. Be very scared. When we come back, there's been some good economic news, but the economic news may not be so good. We'll unpack that with Eric Robert from On the Money just a few minutes. And Virginia Crudo at 7:45.
The latest news.
U.S. officials say the troops manning the outpost had a little warning.
Because Carrie Lake is not a public official, she is simply being asked to withdraw from politics.
The news you need to know.
Representative Bush
is related to allegations of improperly spending federal security money.
And the place to talk about it.
I'm not happy with Biden's term in office. He's filled out a lot of empty campaign promises.
Number one for live and local conservative talk.
And you guys keep up the great work.
News Talk STL.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. Doug and Safe Money Radio is on 3 times every weekend, but in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com or call 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
Missouri Wild Alchemy is a local and family-owned business dedicated to providing consumers with high-quality cannabis and education. They strive to make customers feel comfortable and to help curtail the stigma of cannabis use by having a professional and well-educated staff. They're proud to carry products from several Missouri cultivators and manufacturers. Missouri Wild Alchemy, now serving recreational customers 21 and above, as well as patients. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram, or visit MissouriWild.com. That's MissouriWild.com.
Does your life insurance plan include living benefits, hearing, diabetic supplies, teledoc service, discounts on urns, caskets, tombstones? Larry Connors here. I suggest you call Benjamin Schaefer at Senior Memorial. Call 314-866-8886 or visit memorialplans.com. Memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
Hey folks, Tim Jones here. I'm here with Stewie. Stewie, tell us all about the bagel loan and how people can use it to compete with the competition.
You know what, Tim? Inventory is low. You're going to have to be aggressive out there. We're going to give you the bagel loan. Bagel loan means no closing costs, no title fees, no lender fees. It's the big bagel. Take that money you would save, add it to your bid. You'll beat the competition hands down. Do it now and do it in 12 days.
Close in less than 12 days. Call Stewie 314-324-4440, or better yet, just Google the bagel loan.
MLS number 226715.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer, on News Talk STL. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL.
Than expected, above all the estimates. So this is why the market is tanking, guys. All right, the month-over-month number, I'll go through these real quick. 0.3%. Street was only looking for 0.2. We came in year over year at 3.1. The Street was looking for 2.9. Which is better than last month. I just want to say, last month the REIT was 3.4. Now you're getting a 3.1, but economists were looking for something weaker than that. Okay, so we still have inflation. All right, core month over month 0.4%. The Street was looking for a gain of 0.3%. So again, hotter than expected.
All right, the empire inflation strikes back, unfortunately, this week in the CPI numbers. There's other signs, and we can't figure them out. But when we can't figure those out, we talk to Eric Robert, who, along with Bob Stockdale, hosts On the Money. You hear it every Saturday here right after the show. Eric, concerning CPI numbers, your initial thoughts as you saw the market swoon in reaction.
Well, Randy, my initial thought was, boy, what did people think was going to happen with high inflation? It doesn't just fall immediately in the absence of something like a recession. This process of bringing inflation back to the Fed's 2% target is going to take a while. That's consistent with what Fed policymakers have been saying now for months and months, and we had more of them come out this week. So I think what's good news here is not that the CPI data is higher than expected. It's not that the producer price index, which came out yesterday that measures wholesale inflation, was higher than expected. It's that they didn't spike in such a way that would suggest prolonged inflation or renewed inflation, and it really hasn't changed anything about the Fed's potential path for lowering rates later this year. The Fed policymakers have been very clear that don't get too excited about them cutting rates imminently. It's going to be a matter of this taking months, not just a meeting or two.
Okay, but it was interesting that I thought just a month or two ago they were talking about maybe a May, June timeline for something, and now I guess that's going to be stretched out. It's almost like whenever they start to transmit some hope and optimism, it seems like the market, the people buying, spending seems to, you know, keep the inflationary pressures up. So it's almost like the goalposts keep moving. What is it that will ultimately prove to the Fed? What numbers, what signs are they looking at to say, okay, now's the time to begin to moderate the funds rate?
Sure. So actually, Randy, your initial statement there that the expectation of rate cuts may be coming in like the May June timeframe, that's still exactly where we are. That really hasn't changed as a result of this data. I think if you've been following along, if you rewind a few weeks, whenever Chair Powell as well as other Fed policymakers started coming out saying, whoa, maybe you guys are getting a little too excited about these rate cuts, because the market's expectation had moved to rate cuts being as soon as this March. They wanted to put that to rest. If you look at probability markets right now, for the May meeting, we're showing about a 60-40 split, so about a 40% probability that the first rate cut will happen in May, and a 60% probability that that will hold rates steady. Once you get to June, it's less than a 20% probability, as of today's airing, that the Fed would hold rates at current levels, according to the CME Group's FedWatch tool. Now, those probabilities change every day based on data like this, based on commentary that we hear from the Fed. But really, I don't, and this is a weird thing for me, I'm not trying to defend the Fed here. I can lob plenty of criticism at how we got here and how we're handling it. But as far as this inflation data is concerned, it really does not appear to have changed what they're doing. The retail sales number that we got this week, which I know you're going to want to talk about, that showed retail sales at U.S. retailers fell 0.8% in the month of January. If you were to get not 1 month, but say 2 or 3 months of depressed retail sales, that would suggest that consumer spending is rolling over and consumers are closing up their pocketbooks. That would be the sort of data that I would expect the Fed to go, wait a minute, maybe we need to cut rates sooner rather than later. We may be at or near mission accomplished, but we just haven't seen that happen yet.
Yeah, see, when I was texting you about coming on, it's like I have this cognitive dissonance as a non-expert, and that's why I talk to you as the expert, because I saw those numbers and it was alarming, because it was just a week or two. So, consumer spending down more than expected. Okay, retail sales. And then wasn't it just very recently that the latest consumer optimism numbers continued to rise? And I'm thinking, boy, that seems at odds. Now, maybe those are two different metrics, it's like the household job survey and the employer survey. Okay, is that it? Or are there some leading indicators that aren't widely reported above the fold, the headlines? And here's another one of those. Small business owners. I talked with Brad Jones from the National Federation of Independent Business earlier this week. Okay, they do a monthly optimism index, and for the first time in many months, it dropped by a point, down 3 points actually from 1 month from last month, and 1 point behind labor quality as the top problem. Small business owners plans to fill positions softened, seasonally adjusted net 14% planning to create net jobs. 39% of all owners reported job openings they couldn't fill, so that remains a problem, but it's not keeping them as awake at night, and they're looking at lower retail sales. Now, aren't small business people the canary in this economic coal mine historically, or am I wrong?
Well, I certainly wouldn't say we should ignore what certain small business surveys are saying. Randy, just to be quite honest, I'm not familiar with the survey that you're referencing there, so I can't tell you anything about its construction or what it might indicate. It's not one that we tend to see followed by the larger economic calendars. The original one that you mentioned, though, the Consumer Confidence Index, that's published by the Conference Board, and boy, that data is not old. I mean, that's all of 2.5 weeks ago that the Consumer Confidence Index for January rose up to 114.8, which was a significant increase from December's reading. That is not necessarily at odds with the fact that retail sales appear to have fell in January. There's a really important thing here, because we're talking about all these numbers, Randy, and it's easy to get lost in them. These are not set in the stone. This is how you make decisions, as whether it's as an investor or just whether you're planning your own business. These are indicators of where things may be headed. And you need to watch things play out for a number of months, not just a single data point to draw any conclusions. That's especially true with January's retail sales number. Retail sales in January are historically volatile. You're coming out of the holiday shopping season. Your consumers often do rein in their spending in the month of January. It's not uncommon to see a big drop in sales because you're measuring December over January. That's a big difference in consumer behavior. And you really need to get into February and March and see what the data starts looking at for those months to get a better idea of where we're trending in these things. Consumers, on the whole, feel a lot better about the economy today than they did 18 months and 2 years ago. That's just a fact. They do, because if you go back 2 years, we were dealing with consumer inflation that was almost to 10% on an annualized basis. That's crushing. And we're still paying the price for that every day whenever we go to the grocery store and try and buy different goods and services, because as many consumers understand more today than they did a couple years ago, when inflation strikes, prices don't go back to where they were before. The new prices become the new normal, and that takes time to work through the system.
There's a bit of mystical, magical messaging coming from the administration, right? Because they are cleverly, including cognitively challenged Joe Biden, cleverly trying to imply, I think fairly successfully, in my opinion, that because inflation has moderated, I think people are hearing, or they're hoping people are hearing, prices are down. No, the acceleration in prices are down. But that stuff's baked in the cake. And I guess the only way prices go down if we have a major recession / depression and we get deflation, right? What's the likelihood of that?
Well, we don't want deflation. So we'll just put that out there. Deflation would tend to imply some sort of significant negative economic event. The last time we saw deflation was very, very, very briefly during the financial crisis, and you saw the sort of fiscal response that came from that. We're not experiencing deflation right now. I don't think we want to set up the circumstances where it would become a reality. The lower prices as a result of deflation come with a very high cost. That's measured in terms of jobs and measured in terms of tremendous lost economic capacity.
All right. So I'm going to ask you one final question. This is a strange way to analyze this, but I analyze things strangely, as you know, Eric. I'm a long game player when it comes to my outlook for the future, because I'm concerned about my children and their children. And, well, people in your generation. You're a generation younger than me. And I think a lot of folks listening to the program are thinking, well, if you could write the script as we're now 9 months from another very pivotal election. I'm not going to say it's the most important, but I think we're seeing a changing of the guard in terms of leadership. This will certainly be the last generation of old folks to run the country. Let's be honest about it. But I mean, we're looking at a future that this election is going to impact heavily in terms of public policy, economic policy, so forth. I, for one, would not be unhappy. I keep hoping to get Eric Robert, who you'll hear after this program, with a lot more of the same kind of and even deeper analysis than you've heard in this segment. I keep hoping Eric would give me a little bit of just enough trepidation for the run up to the election economically that maybe people will feel bad enough about the economy to elect more fiscally responsible leadership in this country that realize that the debt is unsustainable, that we are mounting ever and ever and ever more burdens on our debt service. And at some point, we need to have leadership that for the long term will begin to turn this ship around, and hopefully sooner than later. So is it wrong of me to, I'm not wishing ill will on Americans and their economic futures, but boy, a little bit of pain running into that ballot box decision making wouldn't bother Randy Tobler. Am I a sick, twisted individual or what, Eric?
Well, I understand your sentiment, Randy. I do. I think there's a constructive way to look at this. The pain has happened for consumers and voters, and I'm not going to get into, at least for this conversation, into who your listeners may or may not want to be elected in November. I think everybody understands the position there, but the economy doesn't have to suffer in order for political changes to take place, broadly. That's just not the case. So we don't have to wish ill on consumers and workers and things like that in order to prove a point. The point's been proven. We've been dealing with several years now of the consequences of difficult and poor economic decision making, and that goes beyond politicians. That goes throughout the power structure in this country.
Yeah, I'm going to interrupt here. I'm going to interrupt here to make it clear that I'm not asking you for a partisan thing here, because I think we have largely a uniparty that has pretty much thought that bigger government, less or more, is what Americans need and want. Okay, so I'm just saying, I think in general, what I hear from Eric and Bob when I listen to you guys is, look, you got to have some responsible management of this economy. If you think of it just in terms of long-term thinking for investors, for business people, for consumers, right? That's what I'm looking at, right? And that's what I think you're looking at.
That's exactly right. And so, 5.25% to 5.5% short-term interest rates that are actively slowing economic activity, weighing on the consumer's ability to do what they want to do, go where they want to go, build what they want to build, small business owners having more limited access to capital to pursue their dream of opening and building the next small business. We don't need to shut off that spigot any more than it's already been done over the last, call it, 5 years. Between the pandemic and the policies that followed. In my opinion, the point's been proven. Let's let the economy heal, let the American people enjoy the growth that comes with that, and still not forget about not making the same mistakes that got us here.
Yeah, I am concerned, Eric, about, before we let you go, about this consumer optimism and you see, but at the same time, you look at the record credit card debt. What is it now? 1.something trillion dollars. And I'm thinking, it seems to be, again, sort of psychologically, I don't know what's driving. Is it pent up spending? But I get nervous when I have a bigger than average credit card bill because it was Christmas or because we went on vacation. But it's, where are people finding the money to continue to fuel the spending, even though it was a little bit down, on one tick last month?
Well, so that's actually a really interesting data point, Randy. I'm not a fan of consumer debt, not a fan of credit card debt generally. Just to put that out there. But if you look at that big headline number, I want to say it crossed $1.2 trillion for the first time back in November as we were headed into the holiday spending. That was a record nominal number, meaning not adjusted for inflation. But even at its peak, credit card debt as a total was still about 18% below its inflation-adjusted peak. We are seeing consumer credit card debt rise overall, at least on a month-over-month basis for several months now. That's a sign that the economy is slowing and consumers may be relying on more consumer spending. That's a common thing to see at this point in the economic cycle. It's something to keep an eye on. But that headline number is a good example of one of these economic data points that sounds scary because it's not adjusted for inflation. But once you adjust it for inflation, you go, oh, maybe it's actually not quite where it was.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. All right. Well, Eric, that's why we love having you on. We love listening to you and Bob on the money after this, because I think a lot of us look at these numbers and we don't really get the nuance like you and Bob give us. And because you become sort of a Chicken Little if you start reading the headlines. You go, oh my God, the sky's falling. But you help soothe that Chicken Little in us amateur economists. I thank you for that, Eric. Really do. I appreciate it.
Anytime, Randy. And it's important to I'm not being Pollyannish about this. There's real risks in investing. There's real risks in the economy right now. And if those are things that are concerning to you, there's ways to manage your own household. It doesn't have to be all on or all off. You can take a more balanced approach, a more seasoned approach, know what you own, and stick to conservative, blue chip type investments if you're not willing to take the risk that the broader economy offers at a given time.
All right. I'm hearing that you shouldn't have 100% of your portfolio in penny stocks there. That's my recommendation. And listen to Bob and Eric. Eric's been my guest this segment, and Eric, we appreciate you for taking some time out on the weekend to call me, man. Talk to me. Thank you so much.
Anytime, Randy. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, there you go. So it's not as bad as I feared. I was looking at some of these numbers, and I hope these are just one-offs that don't become trends that are, leading to a tanking in the economy. But I just hope people have a long enough memory to remember what Eric was saying, that a lot of the stuff that's been done in the past is going to affect you today, tomorrow, the next day, the next month, and years beyond. And we just shouldn't elect leaders on either side of the fence that think that more government spending and more government knowing what's good for you and more government regulation is the way to go. That's me speaking. You'll hear more from Eric and Bob after the program here. All right. When we come back, I heard some stuff on the Daily Wire podcast that I wanted to talk with Virginia Kruta about. Of course, she writes for and works at the Daily Wire, as well as an awful lot of appearance and presence here on News Talk STL. Talk with Virginia in just a minute. And coming up, top of the hour, boy, I can't wait to that discussion. We're going to be talking about renewing enduring freedom in America. That sounds like a breath of fresh air. Stay tuned for it.
Always be clear where you get your conservative talk.
Soros Fund Management is positioned to become the biggest shareholder of Odyssey, the nation's second largest radio company.
St. Louis's trusted source and number one for live and local conservative talk. This is News Talk STL.
Hey, Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros. When Christine and I bought our new house, we knew the gutters were an issue, and after meeting the Gutter Pros team, we knew that they were right for us. Gutter Pros is your all-in-one gutter service team that offers a variety of affordable solutions, and they even offer free estimates, so there's no cost to you to find out if they are right for your home, just like they were for ours. If you're having a problem with your gutters, contact the Gutter Pros now, because with Gutter Pros, water goes where they tell it to. Call them at 314-656-7195 or visit gutterpros.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Stand and Fight with Nick Schroer.
Hey everyone, this is Nick Schroer from Stand and Fight every Sunday 8 to 10 p.m. If you need tree removal, storm damage, repairs to trees, tree trimming, pruning, if your bushes are out of control, call River City Tree Service. Free quotes right now, 314-270-8071, 314-270-8071. Professional tree services performed by ISA certified arborists. Request your free quote at rivercitytreeservice.com.
Investment advisory services offered through OWLAFI LLC, a SEC registered investment advisor. Insurance and education services offered through Serenity Wealth Management.
Are you or someone you know providing or managing care for a loved one today? Did you know there could be more cost-efficient solutions for funding long-term care, even those currently living in a skilled care facility today? Financial strategist and long-term care specialist Chris Cooper of Serenity Wealth Management can show you tax-efficient strategies available to help your family manage care concerns. Whether planning for the future or managing care for a loved one today, solutions exist to provide the financial peace of mind you deserve.
Hi, I'm Chris Cooper, and I'd love to send you a free copy of my new book, A CPA's Guide to Tax-Free Strategies for Long-Term Care. You'll learn about strategies to empower you and your family, protect your savings, and make sure your loved ones get the quality of care they deserve.
Request your free copy of Chris's book by visiting SerenityLTC.com. That's SerenityLTC.com.
It may be cold outside, but one of the best ways to warm up this winter is with a visit to Johnny's Hideout in High Ridge, Missouri. Located 10 minutes from 270 in Gravois, Johnny's is the go-to St. Louis sports bar and grill experience, featuring over 30 big TVs, full bar, excellent, awesome food, featuring the famous Johnny Dow's chicken wings, live music with local musicians, and a huge game room. Johnny's Hideout opens 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. Check out the Speaker of the House table on your next visit. More information, jhideout.com. That's jhideout.com. Johnny's Hideout in High Ridge.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer on News Talk STL. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL.
All of us should reject the dangerous statements made by the previous president that invited Russia to invade our NATO allies if they weren't paying up. He said if an ally did not pay their dues, he'd encourage Russia to, quote, do whatever the hell they want. I guess I should clear my mind here a little bit and not say what I'm really thinking. But
Well, that was Joe Biden in another Biden moment, another McConnell-esque moment. Virginia Kruta joins us now. Virginia, is it time for a 25th Amendment conversation?
You know, I don't know. I don't know if Biden is really. I think when they give him, when he talks off the cuff, he says things that they can't control and they don't like it. But then when they give him notes, he gets lost. So there really isn't. There's no balance in which he comes off looking better. And so I wonder if they're really starting to consider replacing him.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Hey, how are you feeling? You shared with us last week that you talked to us in the midst of COVID. Are you getting a little better, or are things improving?
I do feel a lot better. I just don't sound great.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you sound congested there. But let's do a virtual visit after this, and I'll take care of it.
There's still some sinus kind of congestion, but I feel a lot better. I'm not coughing as much. No fever for a week now. So.
Good. Hey, you've written on the Daily Wire a couple of things about this I think unbelievable. It was almost a made-for-TV drama, the testimony on Thursday with first Nathan Wade and then Fani Willis, who surprised everyone by showing up in the courtroom and, just bullying her way onto the stand. And wow. And then trying to bully the attorney and Ashley Merchant and the judge. What's your overall take now that there's been a couple of days to let that marinate?
Well, first, I think it's really kind of on brand that Fani Willis blustered the way that she did into the courtroom, and it turns out her dress was on backwards the whole time.
Was it really?
Yes.
That was alleged. Was it really? How in the world could you put your dress on backwards?
Well, it's possible. I'm just going to say
Jerome,
that.
Well, let's ask Jerome. Jerome, have you ever put your dress on backward when you're identifying? Have you ever had that problem?
All the time.
I guess not. All the time.
All the time.
Have you ever done that? Now, wait a minute. Virginia Kruta, have you ever put your dress on backward or known anyone who has put their dress on backward?
No,
Okay.
I will say this. I have put on a shirt inside out and not realized it until later.
Okay. And I've put a T-shirt on backward. I've done that. I mean, but for about 5 seconds. I mean, I've done that when it doesn't have a clear label. But I mean,
well, right, and if it doesn't have a tag in it, certain shirts, if they're all one color or they don't have like a defined hem or whatever, you could put it on inside out, and it would be.
So that's your diagnosis was backward dress. Okay, that's news.
Well,
today
that was
there
were a number of people who pointed that out, and the zipper was straight up the middle of the front. I mean, it was kind of obvious.
Oh, okay. But moving on.
So. But it was a little on brand, is what I'm saying. That they're blustering and they're saying all of this stuff and making all these accusations. And Trump and his people are on trial. I'm not on trial. This from Fani Willis. And then you've got I don't know what was going on in her head that she thought that this was a good idea to testify. But knowing what she was going to say, I mean, and somebody pointed this out. These are people who are supposed to be trained prosecutors, and they're horrible witnesses. And they look like they've been prepped by people who don't know how to prep witnesses. Mm-hmm. Like the number one rule of testifying is you answer in as few words as possible. You don't elaborate. You don't paint additional pictures. You don't give them anything else to work with. If they ask a yes or no question, you give them a yes or no answer.
Mm-hmm.
You don't give them more information than they're asking for, ever. And you've got all this stuff about, now we know Fonnie Willis apparently was told by her daddy to keep cash under the mattress. And some of it came from money she took out for campaign cash. Like, what?
Oh, no,
how do you say
no.
this stuff on the stand and not realize it's going to be bad?
That's a crime. Wouldn't that be potentially a crime in and of itself?
And as Susie Moore pointed out yesterday, she didn't really clarify. Now, this is a woman who did take out money from her own retirement account to fund her campaign. So as Susie Moore pointed out, if she took $50,000 out of her retirement account, put $40,000 into the campaign, and then kept $10,000 in her house, there's nothing illegal about that. But if she put it into the campaign coffer first and then took it out, then it's a problem. But she didn't really clarify what order this was done in. And the fact that it came out in open court is not good. Then you've got Nathan Wade, who kind of goes back and forth over whether or not he even had a relationship with Fonnie Willis. Turns out he did. Comes out on the stand that he did. He can't remember when they were together. And then, was it in 2023? Yeah, I think so. Was it in 2023? I think so. Or 2022? I think so. What about 2021? I don't recall. So you didn't have a relationship in 2021, or you don't remember if you did? Well, I don't recall. Okay, but come on, guys. And then, of course, all of these vacations that they took, he paid on his credit card because if she used her card, then it would raise red flags. And then she gave him cash back out of the mattress or whatever it was that she had going on. It's so confusing. The mafia would have planned this better, but it would have been at least this convoluted.
You're talking with Virginia Kruta. In the last minute and a half we have, as a woman, getting into her head, I doubt there's actually much alignment between your woman's head and her woman's head. Okay. That said, when she made the comment about when the guy, the attorney, the male attorney for the defense asked her, was the relationship over in, I forget, 21, 22, 22, 23? She said, well, to a man it was, sort of snidely. What was she saying there? Can you help me understand that? I'm just a knuckle-dragging male with a Y chromosome. What is
she's probably suggesting that he was stringing her along.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That he was trying to keep her on the side for a little, extracurricular activity, but was not really putting himself into the relationship. I would guess that's what she's getting at.
Okay. All right. There you go. That's the final word. As always, the brilliant analysis of Virginia Kruta here on the Randy Tobler Show. Thank you so much. I hope that the tail end of the COVID clears up quickly for you, Virginia. We'll talk to you next week.
Too.
Thank you. All right. There she is. All right. We're going to step aside, and then we're going to do some Enduring Freedom, new Statue of Liberty. Let's do some hopeful, optimistic, returning country to its founding roots talk at 8:05 when we come back. And then at 8:25, we talk even more fun and folly with gun control regulation on the heels of the KC rally. You're listening to the Randy Tobler Show on News Talk STL 1019 94.1 with Jerome and Randy. We'll be right back.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
The green agenda is really not zero population growth. It's negative population growth.
Bill Gates. Well, by the way, when did we start taking medical advice from a computer nerd? The plan, if we need to repopulate the Earth, Ken, what do we do? Plan.
Hey, how you doing?
That's how you do it right there. How you doing, Donna Jackson?
Vic Porcelli, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Hello, my name's Chad Clayman with ClaymanGroup.com, KLAMEN Group.com. We're local and family owned. We buy houses in as-is condition direct from the seller. Last year, we bought over 75 houses, and the reason that matters to you, we're able to buy so many houses because we make such competitive offers. So if you're thinking about selling a house as is, please reach out. We're definitely interested in competing and providing you with the best offer and the best price. KLAMEN Group.com.
Hi, this is Ron Clutho. Join me for Groovy Grooves every Saturday to hear songs like this and memories that will take you back to a groovier place and time. Be sure to check out the playlist at newstalkstl.com for more Groovy Grooves.
And now for something completely different.
Just a good old boy.
Groovy Grooves with Ron Clutho, Saturday nights at 10 on News Talk STL.
Beats all you never saw, been in trouble with the law since the day they was born.
Hi, Sean Long for STL Fence Works. STL Fence Works is proud and excited to install American-made aluminum and vinyl fence products, as well as American-made decking. For instance, STL Fence Works has teamed up with Jareth Manufacturing. Jareth invented the aluminum fence industry over 50 years ago. The Jareth product is wholly sourced and manufactured in the U.S., and STL Fence Works is the third largest Jareth customer in the world. STL Fence Works is vinyl fencing also, and not just white. We partner with National Vinyl Products to provide you with tan, clay, gray, and variegated wood grain vinyl fence products too, all made in the U.S. Not to be forgotten, STL Fence Works is maintenance-free decking. STL Fence Works is the #1 distributor of Wolf Cellular PVC in the Midwest, proudly manufactured in the U.S. and voted #1 maintenance-free decking product in the United States. Let STL Fence Works make your outdoor space magical. Visit stlfenceworks.com today and learn how we can make your backyard dreams into a reality. At STL Fence Works, your satisfaction is our passion.
Are you a natural leader driven by the desire to...
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNVS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Imprisoned opposition leader Alexei Navalny on President Vladimir Putin.
Grief and anger were the common thread of vigils held for Alexei Navalny. In Berlin, police erected barriers to keep back a crowd of some 600 people. In Washington, D.C., there were chants of Putin, terrorist. The anger over Mr. Navalny's death has a clear target, the Russian president himself. In London, near Moscow's embassy, demonstrators held placards calling Mr. Putin a war criminal. The Kremlin has dismissed the Western response as hysterical.
That is BBC's Catherine Barahunga reporting. Former U.S. Senator Jim Talent says he's been impressed by how well Israel has been able to carry out its offensive in Gaza, facing a well-dug-in and determined urban opponent.
I wouldn't have said before this that any army was better at urban warfare than our army. But I got to tell you, I mean, the Israelis are really showing people how to do this properly.
Talent told the Salem Radio Network many Western liberals, including those in the administration, don't understand Israel has to win. Wholesale prices in the U.S. accelerated in January.
The Producer Price Index rose 0.3% from December to January after having fallen 0.1% from November to December. Measured year over year, producer prices rose by a mild 0.9% in January. The figures follow a surprising report this week that showed that consumer prices eased less than expected last month, signaling that the pandemic-fueled inflation surge is only gradually and fitfully coming under control.
More on these stories at townhall.com.
You all know that aches and pains come with simply getting older, but it doesn't mean you have to accept it. That's why I want to tell you about a special lady, Leah from Ohio, and her Relief Factor story. One Sunday, Leah was sitting on the couch in so much pain she was literally in tears. That's when she decided to try Relief Factor. Just 8 days later, she found relief, and she continued to get better and better. To quote her, she said, "I am truly amazed at this product. Like me, who after 9, almost 10 years, almost a decade of low back pain, lost that pain thanks to Relief Factor. If you're living with aches and pains, see how Relief Factor, a daily drug-free supplement, could help you feel and live better every day. Get the 3-week quick starter pack at relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF. It all comes with the feel better or your money back guarantee. That number, 1-800-4RELIEF. relieffactor.com.
Correspondent Shelley Adler reports on people detained in the Kansas City Chiefs parade shooting, even as the city tries to recover in the aftermath of the violence.
This is Everett Jones of Jones Air and Water Treatment. For the months of January and February, we're here to make your drinking water, cooking, ice, tea, coffee, and other water-based beverages clean, crisp, and free of contaminants. Joey, what do you think of yours?
We use ours here at the station every day, and it's great. There's no cumbersome big bottles, no plastic waste, and it seems endless.
Call us now at 636-899-1040 and schedule your free analysis and let us get you on the way to higher quality water. You can be a filter or buy a filter. Find us on the web at joneswater.com.
The Freedom Principle and News Talk STL invite you to a special St. Louis City Town Hall, Thursday, February 22nd at the St. Louis Police Officers Association on Hampton Avenue. Join moderator Tim Jones and expert panelists for a crucial discussion, building a better, safer St. Louis City. Learn what legislators are doing in Jefferson City to protect and build a safer community for all citizens. The St. Louis City Town Hall is free and open to the public. For more information, visit freedomprincipalmo.org.
Tony Colombo here, along with Tim Jones for Rodney and Jen Wallner, the Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Rodney and Jen are the #1 home selling team in the area, and I can say that from personal experience. They sold our old home faster and for more money than we thought possible, which put us in a great position as we tried to find our perfect new home. And with help from the Wallners, that's exactly what we did. Christine and I couldn't be happier with our experience working with Rodney and Jen Wallner. And Tim, the numbers speak for themselves.
That's right, Tony. Everybody knows the Wallners sell 15 times more homes per year than the typical realtor. And if you're looking to sell your home, right now they have so many qualified buyers, they'll guarantee to obtain you an offer. They're licensed in both Missouri and Illinois, so no matter where you are in the St. Louis region, you can put the Wallners' experience and work ethic to work for you. If you've been thinking about selling your home, don't wait. Call Rodney and Jen Wallner now at 314-810-SOLD. That's 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD for the Wallner home selling team.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, brought to you by Advanced Dentistry Now. Doctors Dan Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer. 636-978-0226 or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer, on News Talk STL. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL.
The fellow is running again. Well, after he did not move on making sure that we dealt with vaccinating the American public. We ended up losing over 1 million people dead. 1 million people. 1 million. And the studies show that for every one of those who died, there are 8 to 10 significant others who left.
Welcome back to the Tobler Show. Thanks for being here. We're trying to get in touch. Do we have our guest on the line?
No, the gremlins are messing with our phone right now, so I'm having some trouble calling.
All right. Well, we were going to talk. We were going to talk about freedom and enduring freedom and how to restore this country. And I would be interested in your opinions. How in the world are we to restore freedom, restore liberty, restore a sense of common purpose in this country? I think that that's the challenge ahead of us. 314-912-1019, the number, trying to figure out how do we bring it back to a center-right country, which is where we've been until the left, the woke left, the progressive left, got a hold of the educational system, created the delusional, CRT, DEI. How far do I need to go? All kinds of acronyms that have infiltrated our educational system, our very culture from the ground floor up. I don't know how we're going to try to restore things, but it's high time that we try to do that. Now, I heard a report earlier this morning on a podcast that we're given numbers that paint a picture of everything glowing, everything's looking beautiful. I think all administrations do that. I don't remember one that hasn't tried to put a positive spin on whatever number is out there. But by the same token, we have to then filter it. It's our job to filter it, to bring it into some kind of a focus and to meaningful existence for you and decision making for you. One of the things that continues to trouble me is, I think, the deceitful way that the jobs numbers have been portrayed. You hear about 2.7 million new jobs since Joe Biden took office, and it turns out that that's maybe a little bit of a different flavor than you might think. Because, in fact, those new jobs are largely part-time jobs, and now it turns out there may have been a net loss of American citizen jobs, or Native American jobs, shall we say. Now, of those who aren't Native Americans, do we know how many are illegals and how many are legals? I don't know. Well, that's just one of the things that we want to talk with our guest, excuse me, Daniel Boltz, who's an entrepreneur and author, founder of the Statue of Enduring Freedom Project, and author of America's Freedom Megaphone. How you doing, Daniel? Thanks for joining me.
Randy, good morning. Glad to be with you and your listeners.
So first of all, I want to get into the book a little bit, but I want to talk about your Enduring Freedom Project. Tell us about the genesis of that, what it is, and what your goal is for it.
Well, Randy, I've been involved probably for over a decade in dealing with different monument projects around the country, helping to design them, helping to establish them, et cetera, et cetera. And as a result of that, and a result of my background, I'm a third-generation Army veteran. I'm all about supporting and defending America's freedom stance, our individual freedoms and liberties. And because of that, in 2017, I came up with this idea to build a companion monument to the Statue of Liberty called the Statue of Enduring Freedom. And I believe, directly to answer your question, this idea has been on my mind for a long time, many, many years. I, like millions of other Americans and yourself, are frustrated by the way that America seems to be fraying at the edges, meaning our individual rights and freedoms seem to be being absorbed by liberal, socialist-minded individuals and organizations in our country, and particularly in our school system. And it's because of that and my interest in monuments that this idea was hatched.
What would the realization of this monument be? Where would it be? How is it going to be funded? What does it look like? Or is that a work in progress?
Well, like I say, we've been involved in this since 2017, but only recently, since the publication of my book a few months ago, have we started to introduce this concept to the general population in our country. So, we start where we are and we go from there. To your question about what the design looks like itself, of course, on our website, I'll mention that, freedomalliancellc.com. Again, freedomalliancellc.com. You can see the designs and the pictures and the clay maquette of the monument as it's being constructed in our sculptor's studio in Chicago. You can see images of it there. And, of course, there are images of it in my book as well. But specifically, the Statue of Enduring Freedoms is meant to be a complement to the Statue of Liberty. And we call this statue Brother Freedom in respect out of Lady Liberty's nickname, Lady Liberty. Brother Freedom will stand the same height, 305 feet above ground, and the design is classic realism, just the same design that Lady Liberty is. And Brother Freedom, of course, is a male figure, and there are elements on the design that are mentioned in our website that talk specifically about the history of freedom and the documents that our country was founded on.
Okay. We're talking with Daniel Bolz, who is the author of America's Freedom Megaphone and the founder of the Freedom Alliance Project. Now, let's talk a little bit about freedom. I'm sure it's no news to you. You probably have it ingrained in your mind, the things that the founders said about the Constitution and about our freedom-loving, foundations, but that without a moral and religious people, as John Adams said, that the Constitution was made for that, and without them, we will fall. Others echoed that at the time of the founding. It seems as though if you zoom out, Daniel, America has been told with the progressive educational system, and I'm asking you as both an author and a educator, our schools have taught for so long you can do whatever you want to do, follow your dream, do whatever you want to do, follow your moral compass. Whatever feels good to you is the right way to go. There's no true north. Your true north is the right true north. What is the fundamental problem with America's cultural decay now, and what's required to get this ship turned around so that freedom is limited with moral constraints?
Well, Randy, everything that you've just mentioned really hits the nail on the head as to the purpose of the Statue of Enduring Freedom, and it's all about our future-focused educational outreach program. You see, this monument, unlike all the others that have been built, has a future-focused mission. In other words, we will have an educational outreach program that'll disseminate from the visitor center, and also we will be advocating and promoting it on our website and through school assemblies around the country. Let me say it this way to your question. Our country's solution to our societal, political, and economic mess is to reboot America's educational system. We know that something's wrong in America. Our freedoms have not been adequately studied in public education for the last 60 years. The very definitions of America's once common vocabulary, such as freedom, democracy, equality of opportunity, individual responsibility, and a balance of power, all these terms have been hijacked and politicized in a way that creates ideologues rather than critical thinking citizens. And this loss of knowledge and critical thought is testing the limits of our republic today. And we believe, as I mentioned, that education is at the heart of all of our problems today. And if we do not do something, and I'm addressing or leading to President Reagan's famous quote that happens to be on our homepage of our website, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It needs to be fought for and protected and handed down to them from generation to generation. We believe that this has not happened for way too many years, for too many decades. And as such, our students today, hence our citizens, do not have a firm, clear understanding of the factual, democratic, and patriotic foundings of our country. They don't even understand the term American exceptionalism as it was originally advanced and what it actually means. So that's what we're doing. We're building this monument. Think of it as it's a loud megaphone. I mean, we use that term in connection with Dinesh D'Souza's last book and a challenge that he gave to all of us to pick up our individual megaphones. And so the monument will become a symbol, a megaphone, if you will, that all freedom-loving Americans will be able to collectively and figuratively yell through that America stands firm in our individual freedoms, and we will not bend the knee to soft tyranny or socialism as it is being incorporated into our society today.
Daniel, across the state in Kansas City, the state Lincoln Days celebration is going on this weekend. There are various Lincoln Days celebrations among and commemorations, which of course feature, the politicians, the people running for office, this very important election cycle. For listeners, what would you recommend for the one or two questions that are pivotal priority questions for our listeners to be asking up and down the political scale, from school boards to presidential candidates? What are the one, two, or three questions that every listener should expect an answer from various candidates at all levels as we head into this election cycle?
Well, comes to mind is the issue of big government, the big government coalition. Are you an advocate of big government telling individuals how to live their lives, or are you an advocate of individuals being able to make those decisions for themselves? I mean, it's the quote from Abraham Lincoln: "Under God, a new government, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people." If that's what these politicians are advocating, then give us examples of what you're proposing. Otherwise, it becomes, which is what a lot of politicians are proposing today, is just the opposite of what Lincoln said, and that would be a government of the government, by the of the government, by the government, and for the government. And so, ask them where they stand and what they intend to do about those issues of supporting individual freedom and squashing socialism.
I would suggest a related question. I'm curious about your thoughts on this, is to try to somehow ask our politicians, what kind of humility do they bring to leadership? Do they think that they know, through their very influential and powerful positions, that they can determine what's good for me? Or do they think that their job is to provide public safety, a sound monetary system, and a justice system to enforce contracts and defend us from foreign enemies, and not much else? And I'd like to ask them that question.
Well, and that question stems to or goes back to the founding document and discussion that we had in the Federalist Papers. Do you believe, ask the politicians, do you believe in federalism or not? And federalism simply identifies limited and specific charges for the federal government, and the rest of the authority goes to the state governments. And that's it. The other thing on politicians today, I'm a strong advocate of the constitutional convention, whereby Mark Levin and several others are advocating this convention, whereby term limits need to be set on politicians. We did that for the executive branch after FDR was running for his fourth term and realized that was getting out of control. And so now the executive president is limited to two terms. That same limitation needs to be imposed upon Congress, because, and you can ask them this as well, and the politicians, do you believe that a politician is a career path in our country today? Or do you believe that, like the founding fathers said, that our politicians should be statesmen? They should go and donate their term, a few years to serving their country or their state, and then return to their home, to their profession, to their families, and live out the rest of their lives. Unfortunately, well, ask them that question, because there are many politicians today. The Speaker of the House several issues ago, Bonner was his name. Anyway, he said that his career path going to college was to become a politician forever. And that is simply that's a perversion of the way that our country was founded. Being a politician today, particularly at the federal level, is not supposed to be a career path, period. It is not supposed to be. They should go in, do their job, and then come home. So asking them that question, are you going to come home after a few terms, or are you going to stay there for the rest of your life?
Great words and sage advice in your book, Freedom Megaphone. And you can learn more about Daniel's work for the Enduring Freedom Statue Project, freedomalliancellc.com, freedomalliancellc.com. My guest this segment, Daniel Boltz, entrepreneur, author, teacher, and founder of that project. We thank you so much, and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Randy, and to the good people of St. Louis. God bless.
God bless you too. All right, well, some optimistic words there as a roadmap for a return to some sensibility and constitutional founding principles. Well, they're trying to take away some of your constitutional rights, specifically Second Amendment. They've already done it in Illinois to some degree. We'll talk with that. We'll talk about the aftermath of the Kansas City shooting and what it means for gun rights and that ongoing fight with Luis Valdez from Gun Owners of America when we come back on the Tobler Show.
New choice for conservative talk.
It's time that everybody wake up and pay attention.
Live and local.
Recent criminal indictment of Donald Trump. About the fourth one. The fourth one. The one he got the free gift with. Punch card. I think it's a tote bag.
This is News Talk STL.
How's your health care? Insured but afraid to use it because of high copays and deductibles? You wait weeks for a few minutes with your doctor? It's Dr. Randy Tobler, and I struggle with the same issues as both patient and doc. You want to know that you're the focus, not the billing codes or faceless denial experts at insurance skyscrapers, which is why I've decided there's a better way. At Body of Health Direct Primary Care, you'll receive timely and time-rich appointments in person or virtually, whichever fits your needs and schedule, along with hundreds of free medications, transparent and truly affordable labs, and most importantly, a trusting relationship. We'll dig deep for solutions to problems and fill you with holistic coaching to minimize the need for high-powered medicine or specialty care. Now, if you need that, I'll work with specialists to streamline that journey too. And if it's prenatal care, hormonal, or sexual health that's bugging you, I'm board certified in women's health. Want a Body of Health? Get to know us at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
Tony Colombo here for Cadre Asset Management. A cadre is defined as a small group of people specially trained for a particular purpose or profession, and that is the role that Cadre Asset Management can play in your financial journey. Learn more about how they can help secure your financial future by following Cadre Asset Management on Facebook, or just go to cadreassetmgmt.com.
Cadre Asset Management is a Missouri-based independent advisory firm licensed under and securities and investment advisory services offered through Founders Financial Securities, LLC, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
Steph's Pizza is on the move to Lake St. Louis. That's right, you can now get the legendary Steph's Pizza and Pasta in Lake St. Louis, 111 Pond Fort Trail. Steph's Pizza, where Mondays you get a large pizza for the price of a small, and it just got more convenient for pickup or delivery in Lake St. Louis. Steph's Pizza in the Chesterfield Valley on Long Road, in St. Peters on Jungerman, and now in Lake St. Louis at 111 Pond Fort Trail. Check them out at stephspizza.com. Tonight's a good night for Steph's Pizza.
Here's a great way to save money on your prescription medications. If you take Viagra or Cialis, we can give you a way to pay as little as $2 a pill. Compare that to prices as high as $60 per tablet. These pills work for men and women to improve their sexual performance. And now for the price of 2 or 3 pills, you can get nearly 100. There's no need to pay expensive prices for Viagra or Cialis. Call now with your prescription and pay as little as $2 a pill. We offer 24/7 service and always free delivery and confidential packaging. Change your life for the better and have fun. Call Pharmacy Shop 24/7 to get generic versions of Viagra or Cialis for as little as $2 a pill, plus free discreet shipping.
800-631-2030. 800-631-2030. 800-631-2030. That's 800-631-2030.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
What new chaos and crises did Joe Biden start over the weekend? We'll discuss at 4:25 with former U.S. Senator Jim Talent. Red State Headlines at 5:25 with Susie Moore.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
There's a hole in this
this country where it's hard used to be.
Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer, on News Talk STL. This is News Talk STL.
As we continue to fight for your freedom, especially after renewed calls of take your guns away, both in Illinois and now in Missouri and all across the country, we have great hopes that Gun Owners of America and organizations like them will continue to fight the good fight. Joining us now from Gun Owners of America, Luis Valdez. How you doing, Luis? Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on the air.
So, of course, the stretchers hadn't been cleaned from the blood on them in Kansas City, on Wednesday afternoon, before the cries for gun control. Joe Biden, everyone out there immediately crying. It was embarrassing and it was gratuitous. Your thoughts?
Well, as is standard with them, they will dance on the graves and in the blood of anyone that they see useful to promote their horrible political agenda, and that is disarming the law-abiding public. And as we saw, sadly, in Kansas City, and I say this as a former law enforcement officer because I recall the chief of police did their press conference and said they had over 800 law enforcement officers on scene to provide security, and that they thought they had more than enough, and then you still had two thugs commit a crime against each other, and the general public was the victim of all this. And it just proves one of three things. One, when seconds count, police are minutes to an hour away. Two, self-defense is your own personal prerogative and responsibility. You cannot expect the government to keep you safe, no matter how many times the government says they could do it. And three, gun control is an absolute failure because the suspects involved in this, I don't know, let me guess. They had a criminal record. They bypassed every law in the books because this is a shocking revelation. Criminals are criminals because they break the law. Gun control laws only hurt the law abiding.
Luis, I have to ask you, these two, you used the right words. They're thugs that apparently allegedly committed this shooting. They're now, I guess, in the juvenile justice system and under arrest or under detention. You have to ask yourself, I know one of the missions of Gun Owners of America and other pro-gun organizations at all levels is education, proper firearms education, because without proper and responsible use of weapons, of firearms, of course, the credibility of the argument is eroded. I think we'd all agree that. Clearly guns are in these communities in the hands of young people that are involved in gangs and drugs and single parent homes where moms or dads are out working and not taking stock of their children. There's a lot of societal problems. What can be done to instill in these kids that the first thing you don't do when you have a dispute with someone is pull out a gun? Is there any hope that we could have education in urban areas to explain to young people that guns have a proper use, self-defense, hunting, target shooting, but not for hurting other people? I know that sounds silly and simplistic, but is there a lane there?
Well, you brought up an excellent point. This is a societal problem. This isn't a gun problem. This isn't a law problem. This is a societal problem. And the biggest problem is that there's a revolving door criminal justice system. You have across the country prosecutors, state attorneys' offices, district attorneys, whatever they go by their title in their jurisdictions, where they let hardened criminals out on the streets with slaps on the wrist, no bond or very little bond, and they're constantly given plea deals. And the other side of that is that as a society, we need to look hard at the family structures, and that's part of it. Is not everyone could grow up in, a traditional, well-to-do, upper-middle-class household with two parents and a white picket fence and all that. I understand. Look, you have divorce homes, you have single-family homes, you have working-class homes. But as a society, we need to invest more in resources to promote and grow good citizenry.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a problem with this is a problem with the American right. They don't want to spend taxpayer dollars on social services. They don't want to spend taxpayer dollars on programs that would benefit society as a whole. And I'm not talking about welfare. I'm not talking about, hey, if you don't work, you get money. No, I'm talking about investing in social programs. Back in the day, you had community rec centers, you had clubs, you had all of these programs, you had aftercare programs, you had all these. Where is all of that? As a society, we have become very insular. We have become very isolated to where the children that are being raised today, they're basically left to fend for themselves. And I say this as a late Gen X or early millennial. Look, I was a latchkey kid. I remember my parents working all day, and I was left home to fend for myself. But the difference is back then, there was still a tangible societal connection. Not everything was digital. Not everything was where people were what's the word I'm looking here? Where they were self-indoctrinated in hate and violence. There was still a community aspect to this. And I think that's one of the problems we have.
You make a good point. And, the new American Family Survey came out and said that there are alarmingly high rates of despondency, depression and anxiety, loneliness, hopelessness among, guess what, young people. A lot of that has to do with, I think, the isolation that social media brings. COVID certainly didn't help that with failed government policies that took kids away from their peers in school. But you're so spot on. I mean, the government and the big government anti 2 and 4A amendment types think that somehow by taking guns away from law-abiding citizens and making and not realizing that they're going to remain in the hands of people who shouldn't have them, whether they're young people that don't know any better or young people in transition who have nefarious means, that's not going to solve the problem. I mean, it's a larger cultural issue. Now, I saw where you sent a letter, the Gun Owners of America sent a letter to House Republicans to counteract some infringements on the Second and Fourth Amendment rights on gunowners.org. I saw that just came out this week. What kind of infringements are actively working through? And I guess any appeal to our listeners to make sure and tell our delegation here in Missouri, our delegation to DC, exactly the things to have in their crosshairs to be shooting down, if you will.
Well, one of the biggest threats right now is that the Biden administration, since Congress is an absolute mess in that regard, and sometimes that's a blessing when Congress is a mess, they can't pass legislation. So that's always a good thing. But what the Biden administration has done is they've sidestepped the legislative process, and through government edict of presidential executive orders, the Biden administration is having ATF reclassify what constitutes a private seller or a commercial seller. So, look, I'm a collector. I know a lot of your listeners are collectors. They buy, they trade, they upgrade their collection. They get bored with something. They want to sell off half their collection because maybe they want to take a vacation, whatever. Mm-hmm. But one of the things the Biden administration wants to do is go after and reclassify an individual selling their firearm collection and basically saying, nope, you are taking part in commerce, you're doing this for profit, you have to have a federal firearms license, we're going to fine and arrest you because of that, because you're conducting business without a license. That's one of the things. The other things, of course, is he's ordering ATF to basically push universal background checks that mandates any and all firearms sales have to go through a licensed FFL dealer and a background check be conducted. And as we know, and as we have seen across the country, when you turn a right into privilege, you have issues. Because what the background check system does is if the system crashes, if it's slow rolled, if there's an issue where an individual is falsely accused because his biographical information is similar to someone else, those rights are turned into a privilege. And Martin Luther King said it best: a right delayed is a right denied. And even here in Florida, where I am, we see this issue because here we have mandatory waiting periods and we have background checks through our stores, and it's done on the state level. And the state slow rolls it. You'll have an individual that might have the same or similar name as a murder suspect in New York City, but the guy's never been in New York, any of that. But they make you prove your innocence to go purchase a firearm. And that is the dangers that we have coming from the Biden administration, along with a whole bunch more.
Wow.
But we are fighting this tooth and nail. We are taking this across the country, whether it's on local, state, or federal level. We fight gun control, and we will not abide by it.
Before we wrap, I don't know if you saw this Illinois assault ban that took place. And if they'll grandfather your so-called assault weapon, your AR-15 style weapon, but if you didn't register it with the government as of January 1st of this year, you are a criminal. Apparently, you're out of compliance. I don't know whether it's a civil or criminal matter, but gun owners who own guns on the list may keep them under the new law, but must register them with the Illinois State Police by January 1st, 2024. Anyone who fails to register their guns could be charged with a Class 2 felony. That's a criminal offense. How many people listening to my voice here from St. Louis over in the Illinois side are in danger of being felons? God forbid if they find out they're listening to a conservative talk show.
Well, we're fighting that. We are, of course, looking at all legal options to challenge this in the courts. And the danger with that is even worse, is those who do comply, they can't pass it down to their heirs. So just think of that. In a generation's time span, the state of Illinois is basically going to eradicate gun ownership. And that's the threat. A lot of gun owners think of this in the short term, but gun control advocates, they think of this in the long term. If they could change the generational mindset of incoming generations, then gun control culturally is wiped out. And one of the greatest threats to that is that future generations don't grow up around guns. If future generations don't grow up owning guns, then it will be swept away. It will be destroyed. And GOA, we think in the long term, and it was said best, I plant the seed for a tree knowing I will never be able to sit under its shade and enjoy its fruit, but I do this for future generations. And that's what GOA is looking at. We're thinking of this in both the short term and the long term, because if you have that generational attack, and gun owners in Illinois, in California, in New York, in Washington State, in Hawaii, in all of these draconian places where they go after your rights, if they're driven underground and the children cannot grow up in a free society where, hey, they either go on the back 40 and they go plinking, they go hunting. If they live in an urban environment, they go to the indoor range, whatever it is. If they don't get exposed to it at an early age, most of them never will gravitate towards gun ownership and understanding what the Second Amendment is all about and how the Second Amendment gives the First Amendment teeth, the Fourth Amendment teeth, the Fifth Amendment teeth, and it slowly erodes our civil liberties as a whole.
Yep, it's a steep and slippery slope when we let them get the nose under the tent. Luis Valdez from Gun Owners of America, gunowners.org. We thank you. I'll remind folks that Ron Paul at the top of your webpage here says the only no compromise gun lobby in Washington. Powerful statement from a powerful public official. Hey, thanks very, very much for being with us. We look forward to staying in touch with you as this political season rolls on and these arguments continue to try to erode our rights. You're not going to let it happen, and we're thankful for your voice. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you for being a shining beacon of liberty in these dark and troubled times on the airwaves.
All right, you too, my friend. All right, there he is, Luis Valdez. And man, it's chilling stuff going on through executive orders and fiat, executive branch movements against our fundamental rights. Anyone that thinks that taking guns away from law-abiding gun owners is the right way to go is, I think, got to maybe get a mental health check. I'm not sure. 314-912-1019, the number. We'll be back and wrap it up after this. Your call's coming up.
No glory is divided on fire in the street. They say building back better, make America great. If that's a way
Subscribe and watch your favorite News Talk STL shows.
Mike Ferguson in the morning, The Vic Porcelli Show, Columbo and Katie, Jones and Arps.
Webcam streaming on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble.
Subscribe and watch
News Talk STL.
Hi, Mark McCloskey here. You know, when I was under felony indictments, I couldn't buy a gun thanks to the federal government. But my buddy Ian McFarland down at Modern Weapons Systems in Fenton said, hey, you know, whenever you get the felonies dropped, give me a holler. We'll take care of you. The day I got those felony beefs dropped against us, we were down there and I bought my new AR-15, and he just had a great engraving and mother of pearl inlay done on a 1911 Colt for me, too. Modern Weapons Systems in Fenton, Missouri. Go to modernweaponsystems.com or call them at 314-252-0486.
Hey, let's talk about your teeth. Let's talk about your oral health. Let's talk about your grinding. I talk to more and more people with all of the news that we hear about grinding their teeth. I'm one of them. And boy, it can have devastating impacts on you. It can cause some TMJ problems that cause you chronic pain. Certainly, it can grind down the teeth to where you go through the porcelain, you're into, or through the enamel, you're into the dentin. And I learn about those kind of things when I visit my friends, Dr. Daniel Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles. You know, they have a vast array of skills for the young uns and the old uns. And whether it's cosmetic dentistry, a little Botox to relax those muscles so you don't grind as much, you name it, they have it out there. And the best in technology, recently they used that to help place a crown on a tooth that had a problem in the back of my mouth. And boy, I'm so happy with it. Went great. You just feel that you are in the best hands and the most precise dentistry when you enlist Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles for your services. And they'll look after your pocketbook too, because they know dental care can be expensive. They want to keep it within reach. 636-978-0226, 636-978-0226, or advanceddentistrynow.com. That's Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles.
My friend, death is certain. Are you prepared? Larry Connors here. I don't want to scare you, but your funeral plans are an important conversation you need to have with your spouse, family, other loved ones. My friend Benjamin Schaefer at Senior Memorial can help find you an affordable, final expense life insurance policy, regardless of your health condition. You could qualify up to $30,000 of lifetime coverage. Life insurance plans with Senior Memorial also offer living benefits towards hearing and diabetic supplies, access to a 24-hour teledoc service, discounts on urns, caskets, tombstones. Call my friend Benjamin at Senior Memorial and discover your legacy at 314-866-8886 or visit memorialplans.com. Memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
Tim Jones here with Dr. Kim Patton from Comprehensive Integrative Healthcare. Kim, you focus on the treating of neuropathy. What are the signs of neuropathy?
The most common symptoms are numbness, burning, cramping, usually in the hands and feet.
Tell me about the success you're having with your Restore Neuropathy treatment program.
Tim, our program includes 8 distinct steps, offering a unique experience from other treatments. No surgery, no addictive medications, and we are seeing a success rate of 95%.
Kim, that is incredible. How can people learn more?
Visit us online at CIH.health. That's CIH.health.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote and accelerate the development of quality Christ-centered K-12 education.
Hi, this is Daryl Jones, president of the Herzog Foundation. Our primary goal is to advance Christian education so that families and culture flourish. The legacy of Stan's business career centers around making national transit ecosystems accessible and sustainable. Likewise, the legacy of Stan's philanthropy centers around making the ecosystems of Christian education more accessible and sustainable for families across the nation. Visit HerzogFoundation.com to learn more about our programs, including trainings, scholarships, conferences, news, and our podcast, Making the Leap.
Visit HerzogFoundation.com to learn more and sign up for The Lion, an initiative of the Herzog Foundation that carries articles covering a wide range of issues facing American families and culture. HerzogFoundation.com.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, brought to you by Advanced Dentistry Now. Doctors Dan Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer. 636-978-0226 or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer, on News Talk STL. Talk lines are open now at 314-912-1019.
It is so pleasurable to spend time with you on a Saturday morning. I'm thankful you're here, and I'm so thankful this station is here because I know that I have a place to listen to get real, conservative, unfiltered, and unmanaged talk. We can talk about freedom and liberty and the eroding rights that we have, and management doesn't touch us. That, my friends, is a beautiful thing, and I hope that you continue to listen and expand how much, and you listen and share it with all your friends, because we're in a pivotal time in this country. Let's share Ray's thoughts with everyone. Ray's on the line now. What's up, Ray? Thanks for calling.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me. The problem with the rise of socialism within the kids of today is in the schools. My stepkids from my previous marriage were attending a AAA rated public high school, and they did not know simple things such as from each according to his means to each according to his needs. They thought that was in the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence. And when I pressed them on it, they said they're not taught the difference. But yet,
you're not kidding me, are you? You're not kidding me, are you?
To you. I am not kidding you. And
oh, my God.
At the high school awards, they were giving out awards for social justice. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're promoting Marxist idealism or indoctrination. And when I was talking about this, their mother was like, oh, well, that's not important. I'm like, of course it's important. And these are the same teachers' unions that are saying language and mathematics is racist, but then wanting DEI for the people, for the jobs that you need mathematics, such as being a doctor or a pilot. I mean, this is a problem of, it goes to the schools. I mean, I'm teaching my kids. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you know what? And that's why in Missouri right now, there are conversations going on that, our own Nick Schroer here, and others in the area, Mary Elizabeth Coleman and others, everyone is on the right is trying to get more and more as quickly as we can education choice. But because if we don't get education choice, all is lost. Ray, you're right on, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to inoculate my children from this. Every day I go, where do our rights come from? They say God. And then my follow-up question is, I go, do they come from man or government? And the correct answer is no. So if some teacher tries to indoctrinate them that it's Joe Biden and government that gives them the rights and blessings, they can stand up and say, no, they're inherent. They come from God, not from man and government.
Good for you. God bless you. And I hope that model of parenting is spread far and wide across the fruited plains. Thank you, Ray. Appreciate the call. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Tobler.
All right. Next up is Gene the Dancing Machine. Got a couple minutes to spend with Gene before we close out. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, real good. Thanks. I'll try to make it fast here. Two things. On these juvenile crimes, I think that across the board, it needs to be rethought about particular severe crimes, that these kids need to be charged with adult charges, put in detention homes until they're old enough to transfer to jail, and never get their records expunged for stuff like this. Years ago, kids didn't do stuff like that. Petty shoplifting, etc. Yeah, get that off the record. This stuff, nope, keep it on.
Yeah, but when they petty shoplifted, I mean, I don't know. This is both a parenting thing and a system thing, Gene, but I know one time, I'll never forget it. I walked out just innocently. I didn't mean to, but I walked out of a 5 and dime store. Remember when they had the open, you could get the little wax bottle. It looked like a Coke bottle. You drink the stuff, and all that, little bubble gum. And we were in the 5 and dime store, and I walked out and I had something in my hand, and my mom said, "Randy, we're going right back, and you're telling and I mean, man, that left an impact on me. I didn't willfully do it. But, I think parenting needs to change. Expectations at schools need to change. Early accountability, maybe not, terrible, jail time for doing something like that. Maybe so. I don't know. Maybe the second time you do it, you see some jail time. But it's got to start earlier, doesn't it, Jane?
It does. I agree. And I did similar stupid thing when I was a kid. And then, secondly, I know we're kind of short on time here. Your query about what we can do to try to get the tide turned, if you will. I think if we came up with real good marketing plan, market conservatism, constitutionalism, love for country, like you would a product, get people together that are of the right mind and market this thing, social media, make it cool, et cetera, that might start. It's got to start kind of from bottom up, I guess, putting on my old salesman's hat, if you will.
No, I mean, we need to restore the fact that while the so-called good kids in school were always a little bit from the kids that were maybe a little more rambunctious and precocious,
sure.
Always a little bit of, but there was the acknowledgement that there was a good kid, that there were kids that were doing the right things, and at some level they were respected, and teachers and administrators held them up as examples. Now it's like, oh my God, those are privileged children. Those are kids of the systemically racist society. We need social justice. I mean, I'm telling you, man, we're tearing down the good to elevate the bad, and we're ending up with a very mediocre, if not worse, in the middle. Gene, thank you so much. I appreciate it, man. Have a great weekend.
Have a good week.
Got to run.
You too.
All right. Well, our friend Stel Ponticus from the Mike Ferguson Show reminds me that Trump sent federal assets to violent cities across America after the Operation Legend in June 2020. I'd forgotten about that in Kansas City. Remember that? After the shooting of that 4-year-old? I forgot about that. And Fed assets were sent in. What happened to that? Biden ended it, Stel reminds us. Well, you'll hear more with Stel and Mike and Gabe on their show come Monday morning. Stay tuned for On the Money. Thanks for being with me this weekend. All hope is not lost because you still have a vote and a voice. See you next time.
In the beauty of the lilies, Christ was born across the sea with a glory in his bosom